Alrighty then, so today we are going to examine a marvelous troll, right? This was great. As soon as I saw this going on, I was like, I have to make an episode about this. I hope people don't start deleting their making an ass out of themselves tweets before I get to make a video about this, and some of them already have. But luckily, people are also archiving people making asses of themselves on this particular thing. So, what happened, right? God, I love this. So there is a bit of a Gnostic inflection in a lot of the art community, where it's like, oh yeah, we have the secret knowledge. We know the things that no one else. We know the hidden true, right? We have the critical consciousness. We can tell what's real art and what's not real art, right? We like reality can be whatever it is I want it to be. It's why they don't define their terms when you ask them questions, right? Because they want to be able to leverage the ability to evade responsibility for being inconsistent, right? And long story short, some of these people got fucking called out for it. Not rudely, but they got called out by their own idiocy. And let's look at this. This is Schlom's or I don't know how to say that. I just generated an image in the style of a Monet painting using AI. Please describe in as much detail as possible what makes this inferior to a real Monet painting. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I clocked this immediately, right? I had an immediate sense. It's like, wait a minute. Hold on. And then it turned out I was actually right about this because, like, again, I used to do trolling, and I'm like, I detect a little bit of trolling here, right? I can't tell you what it is. It's just it's a feeling, like a sixth sense, right? From one troll to another, and I'm like, fucking marvelous troll. I love this to death because obviously the key here is this is not AI generated. This is human made. This is human gen, right? Someone actually painted this physically and just said it was AI. And let's see how many people took the bait, right? So here's the addition to the troll, right? Shloms says, and also funny enough, he's using cuneiform in his as his name, right? Please focus on the specific visual elements that distinguish the AI image from a real Monet painting, like the one below, like the below, but it should be the one below. And here is the reference piece, right? Like the one to compare it to. And obviously there was a bit of issues. Hello, Cabot. That's a pretty painting. Yeah, right? But yeah, so too many people replying with non-answers and provenance witticisms, so I will be directly quoting actual answers engaging with the question, which is a wise move, right? Because it allows it to be easier to find the people who are actually responding in earnest, actually trying to address the claim, right? And by the way, this gives me a lot. This puts a smile on my face because, again, as someone who's been like advocating for the pro-life movement, I immediately clocked what this is because it's like you get used to the pro-choicers be like, oh yeah, you think this is a human, and they post an embryo or an embryo what would you call it, like a rendition, and then the catch is they want you to get emotionally captured, so that they can pull the rug out and you like, actually, this is a dog fetus. Actually, this is a cat fetus. Actually, this is a dolphin fetus, right? Because, again, there are certain points in development where it can be kind of hard to distinguish some of these things, right? And they do that on purpose to make you look like an idiot. Yeah, this got turned on the other side for once, right? For once, the Quangos get to subjected to their own tactics, and I must have gone to McDonald's because I'm loving it, right? But let's see. So, he at least courteous, right? Thank you to everyone who provided their critiques and analysis. I have minted the inferior image on Ethereum blockchain and will now auction to the highest bidder. Absolutely fucking based. By the way, I've seen artists make money off of blockchains, specific, NFTs. And the thing about NFTs is you're buying it's a signature. You are paying for the signature. That's what the NFT is, right? It's a signature chain. And it's basically like a hype beast. No one's buying NFTs unless they actually have the money to throw it away, right? But anyway, So here we go. Inferior image. I just generated an image in the style of a Monet painting using AI. Please describe in as much detail as possible what makes this inferior to a real Monet painting. 0.999 Ethereum, which would be $2,264.03 USD, right? It's where the bidding starts. Yeah, get that bag, king, right? Anyway, so long story short, inferior image has sold for $42,500 and now resides in Jedi Wolf's extensive collection of historical AI art. Funny enough, it is not AI art, right? Again, we already covered this. Fucking hysterical troll. Thank you to the thousands of critics who provided their expert analysis of the image to help us better understand the work. So Jedi Wolf here, we learned a lot in the last 24 hours, not just about art or AI, but about ourselves. And I'm struggling to think of anything more valuable. Thank you again, Shlom's inferior image is now part of my Under the Gan early AI art collection. Again, there are people who see value in things that you find without value. What's that thing? One man's trash is another man's treasure. Someone may hate AI art, but keep making the AI art if you're making the AI art because someone finds value in it. Also, if you're making human-made art with not touched with AI at all, keep making that because you know what? There are people who find value in that. Just respect the customer, by the way. Oh shit, Cabot's been talking to me. Let's see. Cabot says, isn't encouraged to learn from famous painters. I mean, yeah. The fetus thing was in science books for years. That's true. Nice way to make a quick buck. I mean, you would think so, but people selling NFTs sometimes can end up waiting quite a while before someone picks up that work, right? But I mean, if it helps, it helps. I am very well aware of a case where a woman, a female artist who actually had some really severe medical issues, was struggling to get like people to actually buy her artwork in real life or like digitally. So then what she did is she ended up moving to NFTs, and then it turns out people with a lot of money to spend saw her work and were like, oh, I actually like this person's work, and started paying her way more than anyone else was paying her when she was doing regular commission work, right? So like an NFT thing is very closer to a patronage thing than it is to like a real commission work. And you know, she actually was able to get medical care. And you know what happened? It's not the people who were buying her stuff through NFTs who were causing her problems. It was the entire art community that tried to bully her into committing suicide. Maybe I should do a reaction to that one take because Unique Namosaurus has a really good video about that. Now I'm not going to react to the fucking 5 or 8 hours of documentation about the harassment campaign that the artists, right, the left-wing artists tried to pull on her to get this poor woman with an actual medical condition to kill herself. But you know what? If NFTs could help a person get their medical bills paid, I'm not going to stop them, right? Hold on. Let's see. Cube Con Queso says, came in to a very solid message. Exactly. Right. I hope so. Right. I try to be realistically positive. Firestorm Cabot said, if you are unknown, sure, but if you have a big name, it sells like hotcake. Yes, but the problem is you have to start somewhere, right? And sometimes the NFT thing is actually a way to start. Because it can help to get your name out there. There are good people who struggle to make money off of NFTs. That's true. There are bad artists who make money off of NFTs because it turns out some people actually like shitty art, right? But then there are really amazing artists who make really good money off of the NFT thing as well. I've seen some spectacular art minted as NFTs make fucking bank. So again, it's just one of many tools at your at your disposal. Use whatever tools you can to again receive receive compensation for your work. If the tool is out there for you to use it. Maximize your productivity and maximize the ability to profit from your productivity, right? You owe it to yourself. Let's see. Firestorm Cabot says, let's see. Exclusivity and FOMO are powerful motivators. That's true. No, that's actually Coupon Queso. Cabot says there are always those who want to drag you down with them. Yes. Queso says crabs in a barrel. Some, yep, some just want to spread the hurt. Cabot says the ugly monkeys come to mind. Yeah, right. Again, if you try to bully someone into committing suicide because they have back problems and they need to support their family, and the only way that they can make money is NFTs, you are an ugly monkey. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, right? Kukan Queso says, I want to learn to use my spare rig to get into AI Gen. I have a VTuber model idea, but I has the dumb also. Well, I mean, to be fair, I have moments of the tism and the dumb as well, right? We all do. But I'll see if I can. Feel free to send me a message on Twitter. I'll see if I can find any resources to help you on that. If you want, but let's see. Continuing on with the episode, right? We actually get a direct answer finally, right? And this just exposes the vacuousness of so-called art critics. Because again, if you can't tell the difference between AI generation and human generation, what the fuck good is your ability to criticize art, especially if your position is that only one is meaningful, right? So I'm disappointed to have to even point this out. There's no cohesion to the depth and color choices. Now, to be fair, I'm colorblind. Can't really comment on that, right? I can't even see the skin tone of my own model, right? I did that on purpose, by the way. The reflection of the tree bleeds into the lily pads with no regard for spatial depth or contrast. The background lily pad algae amalgam is egregiously vague, like most AI art. I mean, I think he probably did that on purpose, right? This is a bit of a troll. I'm pretty sure he did that shit on purpose, right? This is a real Monet, you dingus. Amazing. My bad. I mean, at least this person, right? This person can at least, you know, again, I'll give this person credit. They can at least be the butt of the joke, right? Yeah, you know, if you can be like, yeah, this was a flub on my part, you immediately get some respect from me, right? Because everyone makes an ass of themselves eventually. I know I have made an ass of myself a fair share of times, and you know, I admit to it. It's like, look, really stupid move on my part. One person tried to tell me I was being facetious on a Twitter debate one time, and I told him I'm the most retarded person you've ever met. I got a degree in creative writing. I actually earned some points for that comment, by the way, from the guy. So a little bit of realistic self-depreciation, you know, not taking yourself too seriously can help. Let's see. Kukan Queso says, I appreciate it, but I only have this. Never had Twitch or anything else. Old and stubborn. I mean, fair enough. We all have to start somewhere, and we all have, like, what we want to do in our vision, right? Cabot says, contrast does a lot of heavy lifting in art. That is true. Let's see. Now we get to the next one, right? And here we start seeing what will become a bigger issue as we go through all of this, right? Great answer. Thank you. Very polite. Very respectful. Interesting. Interesting. I wonder what I see here. Right? Twitter/X, yeah, right. Yeah, I should start calling it Zitter from now on, like Mentis Wave, right? But it's like, interesting. This page doesn't exist. Try searching for something else. I knew this was going to happen, right? I didn't have the opportunity to get to this subject until now, but I knew this shit was going to start happening. Let's see if anyone actually archived it, because, yeah, people started figuring this out. Sort of screenshotted them, right? Dirty delete. This is why oftentimes also, like, I'll just tag someone in my response thread. That way it's like, even if you delete the post, and actually I used to do this on, on other forums where it's like, if I was responding to someone, because I got used to people deleting their comments to, like, when I was, like, responding to them or saying I didn't actually respond to them, I would directly quote sections that I were responding to in what they themselves posted as to indicate exactly what it was I was responding to. So even if someone would delete their comments in the threads, you could still follow the majority of the conversation because I quoted all the relevant sections I was responding to, right? And I'm gonna be perfectly honest, people fucking hate it when you do that because it actually holds them responsible. Because again, they could delete and they could roach out, but I literally recorded what you said in the conversation and put it for everyone to see. You could roach out all you want, But if I call you by name, right, by username, and I directly quote you, what the fuck are you gonna do now, right? Roaching out doesn't help you, it only makes it worse. Right? Coopcon Queso says, I have to run and burn or some petrol, but I'll leave this on for attention. You rock, man. I'll be listening to your music on the drive. Oh, thank you. Have a safe drive, man. Make sure to not be distracted while you drive. Let's see. So let's try this one. This is the next one. This is Charles Deskins. The reflection in AI is just noise splattered, right? Noise splattered, right? Monet actually understood how light behaves on water. So the light splatters on water better in the below real painting than the first image. No response. No response. Again, look, I grew up in a family of artists, right? Again, I've told this before, right? My father is an illustrator. My mother is an illustrator, right? Like, my uncle was a professor of the arts, right? He was also a German expressionist painter, right? By the way, German expressionism is actually a fairly interesting subject in the field of art. I've always had an interest in art, right? You want to know why I watch cartoons, but I don't watch movies, right? Or at least live action material, except for like a few instances. It's because a cartoon, an animation, is literally a drawing come to life, right? I have an interest in things like line and movement and all this stuff. These are actually things I find interesting. And again, I had another uncle who was a musician, right? My entire family, like my grandfather was a musician. My other grandfather, guess what, was a graphic designer. I come from a family of artists. I do not give a shit about the opinions of artists, quote unquote, on Zitter, who, again, like, can't even tell, don't understand that human beings make mistakes, which we will get to later, because I found an example of a real person's art being called AI that I haven't seen anyone talk about. We'll get to that later, right? So I don't give a shit about the opinions of like these big Twitter artists, to be perfectly honest. Because my family had to my family had to survive off of art. So yeah, let's continue. That also, by the way, it's why I'm not an artist, right? I mean, I do art on my own, but I don't make any kind of money off of art because to hell with that, right? At least for me, right? That's not exactly how I want to live. Let's see. Ooh, I got some more comments. So Cabot says, I've screenshotted people who blocked me on Twitter to have one last word. That's, you know, a fair point, right? Art and music was required elective the first 6 years of my school life. Oh, interesting. Wait. Required elective. That's an interesting. I've never heard those two words put together that way. Let's see. So let's go to Chief Yeti. Chief Yeti said, choice of color in places. Example, the purple around the lily pad sticks out to me as decidedly worse than most Monet. At least this is like, again, explaining why this is worse than Monet's in like objective fashion, right? I get a sense that the artist failed to connect their eyes to the brush/palette, almost as if, and then ... I don't know what the ... means. I'm presuming it's like the implication is the eyes weren't connected to the brush or palette, because again, the original troll is that he said that this was AI generated when he actually painted this by hand. And let's see what the response is. Okay, so in this one, the color around the lily pads is better. And what specifically gives you the sense about the artist connecting their eyes to the brush and palette? I will give it to Yeti. Yeti had an actual conversation. Getting a real conversation off of people on Twitter or off of Zitter can sometimes be like pulling fucking teeth, right? Like, I've tried to talk to some of these anti-AI people when they post that stupid learn to draw meme where they got the artist looking with absolute contempt with the pencil out. This is actually why I didn't give Glitch Studios, right? Like shit when they had the drawing of Poe, like, with compassion and care, actually giving someone a pencil and they say, you know, prompting people to learn how to actually draw like with their own hands. I actually like that. That was a good piece because it's not being done out of contempt. It's not being done out of disgust. It's being done out of it would be tragic for you to not know what you can do. right? What was the thing that like the Greek philosophers would say? It is a tragedy for a man to live his life not knowing the full extent of what his body is capable of, right? It's the same thing with the mind. It is tragic for a man to live his entire life and not know what the limits of his mind is as well, right? What the limits of the abilities he has at his natural disposal are, right? So I keep telling people, learn to draw and learn to prompt. You can do both. And in fact, if you're going to do art, it would actually probably benefit you to do both, because prompting will teach you how to actually describe what it is exactly you want, to translate image into word, and drawing will allow you to to develop those principles you can translate into the prompt in the first place, right? So it's like the two, you can learn from both. But anyway, so back to the thing. Back to Chief Yeti, who I'm giving props, right? So, lily pads in this one are better in my opinion, yeah? I mean, you can have that opinion, fair. With that eye to canvas connection, what I see is the artist passing what they see through a consistent filter, almost. They're not trying to capture reality exactly, which, to be fair, here's the thing. This is already a bit of an issue. They're not trying to capture reality exactly, but the choices they make, like response, color, shape, form a coherent, complete piece of artwork. This part right here is going to trip people up. They're not trying to capture reality exactly. Here's the thing. That is a very specifically realist or imitativist critique, right? So realism and imitativism are similar. You'll see realism used more often in like the critique of literature, but imitativism is basically a synonym used in the theory of visual arts. Imitativism is the idea that the function of art, or the way you critique art, is how well it imitates or captures reality as it is, filtered through sense perception, right? This is where you get, like, for example, it's really good for the understanding of, like, let's say realist and hyper-realist realism as art styles, right? But there's a very obvious caveat here, which is that the function of art is not to capture reality as it is. The function of art is to concretize a metaphysic, a view of man and his life, right? A view of the world as it either is or could be. And the issue here is that not all artists operate the same way. Some artists are more emotivistic, right? And emotivism is another theory of art criticism, where instead of critiquing how much it imitates life, it critiques how well it expresses and captures emotion. That's another one, right? So there are many different ways. Instrumentalism is another theory of art criticism, where instead of like addressing the art as a thing in and of itself, you address art as an instrument towards a particular goal, and how well does it perform that particular goal. And instrumentalism is useful if you're trying to do commercial art, for example, right? So there's all kinds of ways you can tackle this topic. But right here we have a privileging of imitativism, which I don't really think is justified, right? Again, what makes you think imitativism is the particular thing that they're going for in this particular piece? But I digress, right? That's a little bit me being a bit of a shitter on like art criticism, because let's be fair, art criticism, like literary criticism, is the fine art of bullshit, and I am a decent bullshitter, I would say. Let's see. Did I miss anything? Let's see. Okay, yeah, I did miss a little bit. Cabot says, yes, basically we had the maths, English, and science, then art. Music, let's see, PE, yeah. The Greeks was all about peak physical fitness, or was that the Romans? Both of them. So they had a hylomorphic view of man. So a man in the Greek view was a soul body composite. You were both body and soul. So the idea was, or at least in the Aristotelian tradition, the Platonic tradition, you were basically a soul trapped in a body. But anyway, under the Aristotelian tradition, since you are a body, right, then you have to take care of your body. You have to cultivate both your body and your mind. So there's a difference depending on what specific era and what specific like school of Greek and Roman thought you're talking about. But Aristotelianism in particular was the tradition I was referring to. Let's see, he says captures emotion like animated movies and the like, right? Quatico Lake Runner, hello. Glad to see you, man. And yep, right. So I actually meant to stream way earlier than this, but I had a couple things to do, and I didn't drink enough water, and I ended up crashing like hell. So let's continue. Oh, wait, wrong button. Let's see. So we've already covered the mistake of assuming realism or imitativism as like the primary mode here. In the AI example, the purple on the lily pads is inconsistent with the rest of the painting. Some of the brushwork too. I can't comment on the color issue because, again, colorblind, right? Some of the brushwork too, along with the colors of the water plus reflected tree, it all adds up to make it feel like a trained but untalented student's attempt at recreating Monet's style. Oh, the fucking irony, right? Again, I love trolls like this. I fucking love. So it's like a proof of cash. Says it's crop Monet painting, laughing my fucking ass off. Chief Yeti, Lamau, not even cropped. I almost said if you told me it's a Monet, I'd believe you and say even the greats produce duds sometimes, and now I wish I'd kept that in my OP. I mean, again, if you could take it on the chin, I already have more respect for you, even if you are being a little retarded, right? Cabot says, I'm glad it was later than later. I finished making my bed frame in half an hour ago. Oh, lovely. Hopefully that works. Hopefully that works well, man. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Revisiting his Water Lily series now, and my claims stand. I'd put it in the bottom decile execution-wise. There's some commentary on our perception of art in the AI era here that I can't articulate, but I like it. Thank you, Shloms. Let's see. Taking it like a champ. Exactly, right? Again, if you can take your lumps with grace, people will respect you more, right? Because again, it happens to the best of us. I've made really stupid comments before, and if you can take it like a champ, people will give you, people will respect you more, right? Just saying. Let's see. So I guess you'd say this is Monet's slop as far as Monet's work go, something like that. Someone mentioned elsewhere that this was one of his later works after his vision started to go, so I guess it gives it a good story or whatever. But like, if I'm hanging a water lily on my wall, there's like 200 others I'd choose other than this one. And this is actually a really interesting thing, right? Because again, it doesn't really capture reality as it is, right? But maybe it does. Because here's the thing. Your perception of reality is like filtered through your sense perception. And we do have documentation of artists recreating their sense perception, especially when their sense perception is damaged in artistic media, right? And they do that on purpose, right? So this could very well be, again, if his eyes are going, and like if this is one of the more duds because, again, of the lack of coherence, let's just give him this, right? Let's just give him that, right? Maybe this really is like a concretization of how he currently sees the world so that he can give people a better understanding of how it is he is interfacing with the world through, let's say, like the degradation of his vision, right? Just saying, right? There may very well be a reason for this. Some German expressionism was the product of people with degraded eyesight, and yet German expressionism is still a wildly successful area of artistic history. Right? So imitativism can get you so far, but it can't get you where you need to be in total, right? Let's see. Cabot says, I love impressionistic paintings of landscapes and still life, but I always hated drawing real life bodies, but it was to learn anatomy. I mean, yeah, fair enough, right? Imitativism does have that example, right? The more you understand a real body, the more you can do with an abstracted human body, right? You do have to learn the realistic element in order to abstract what it is, because you have to understand what it is you're working with to successfully abstract it, right? It's like the people who drew Panty and Stocking, right? Panty and Stocking, very abstracted, but these people could draw. Like, they could actually draw real people. They could draw other anime styles, right? And that's because they, again, understood realistic work as well, but they understood it well enough to then translate it into a more abstracted form. In fact, this is what happens with a lot of anime art, right? Is a lot of these people, they can draw realistic, but they choose a more abstracted style, and they got better at that abstracted style by learning realism in the first place, right? The Iron Tiger said, always amazed when people who don't know a damn thing about art pretend like they do. Tell me which AI did you use to get this half-ass critique from? It almost reads like a GPT comment, almost as if, and then again, yeah, Tiger is a person that is a little sick of a lot of this anti-AI slop because he is himself a successful human artist, right? He's actually done art themselves the traditional way. They actually have established their capacities, and he uses AI as well now. Again, it's almost as if the two aren't mutually exclusive, and that there may be reasons to use one or the other depending on the circumstances, right? Let's see. Cabot says, learn the basic rules before you can break them. Exactly, right? Learn the principles that you need to, again, because oftentimes you're still using those principles, you're just modifying them to meet a particular style. Yeah, so I'll give Yeti this, right? He took it like a champ, right? I'm not going to shit on Yeti because of this, but he did kind of make an ass of himself here, and he's not the only one, right? Robert Jett, no frame, no sense of the threshold between subject and object, just colors. Humor me and explain what is better about this one, and then let's see if they responded. Okay, that is Robert Jett. This would also not be a Monet if it is or isn't. Paintings exist on walls. Wait, this would also not be a Monet if it is or isn't. Paintings exist on walls. Museums are designed spaces where artwork is elevated to experience. That doesn't answer the question, you'll notice, right? Hello, Fushizi. Right? Let's see. Are the composition, colors, strokes, etc. of the original image distinguishable from a legitimate Monet or not? It is a simple question. What is a legitimate Monet? Pre-Impressionist Monet, not at all. Impressionist Monet, maybe, but it could also be Sisley or any other Impressionist. So right now, we're just apparently dogging on Impressionism right now, right? Maybe Monet drew something very postmodern one day and it was never bought by a museum. Art is contextual. Kind of, but I have an objectivist model of art, so miss me with that shit. This is some subjectivistic reasoning right here, and I don't like subjectivism. Let's continue the conversation. I think you know what I'm asking. Oh, they do. Robert Jett knows exactly what you're asking. That's why he's dancing around the fucking subject, right? So... Then only Monet I've ever seen in person was the Artist's Garden in Giverny at the UAG. I don't know what the fuck UAG is, in New Haven. I'd sometimes smoke a joint and go after class. I don't think your photo feels like that painting did, which I'd imagine is downstream of how it looks. Flowers a bit too big. So, again, we got a little nitpick there, but no real explanation, right? Let's continue, see if this goes anywhere. And conversation stops because reasonably Shloms figured out he wasn't going to get a real conversation out of this twat. And, yeah, kind of made an ass out of himself here, right? So, Fushizi says, oh wait, hold on. It's actually Cabot was first. Monet and Van Gogh both had deteriorating art style that is super popular, right? Because it's almost as if art isn't made to replicate life, right? It's almost as if art has a very specific function that does not actually correspond to the desires of the realist, right? Let's see. Fushizi says, which one is better is not physical, so it doesn't count. Can you please answer the question? Right? Well, he didn't even say it's not physical, so it doesn't count. Or at least I don't think it is, right? I don't think I saw that anywhere. Let's see. Yeah, he never said it. He never even said that. At least your statement, Fushizi, actually would be an answer. It's not physical, so it doesn't count. It's a stupid answer, but it would be an answer, right? Didn't even do that. Not even that was the answer, right? It was just dodge the question. They not even entertain the question. What the fuck are we doing here? Right? These are the people telling us that AI art isn't art, and they can't even explain to you what art is, right? And they do this for a reason, right? Because it's that whole Thanos quote, reality can be whatever I want it to be, right? If they pin down a specific definition of what art is, and therefore, since we have a specific definition for what art is, an objective way to actually analyze and critique art, that puts that actually puts them subject to criticism. That actually holds them to a standard. And as a result, if you don't want to be held to a standard, you have to obfuscate the definition, right? Because if it can be anything, then there is no standard, right? So let's see. Firestorm said, who was the painter that made the Melting Clocks painting? Was that Escher? I don't know if that was Escher. Hold on. Let me check. I'm actually drawing a blank here. So was it Dali? I don't know. Let me check. Names are escaping me right now. Persistent. Ah, god damn it! I got it right before I fucking typed it in. Yeah, it was Salvador Dali. It's the persistence of memory, right? I don't know. It's not my preferred art style, so I have never been a big fan of Dali. I actually don't like the guy, so I've never been a big fan of Dali. Yeah. So I don't really keep up with him. Let's see. Fushizi says, again, dodges the fuck out of the question and makes the weakest critique possible. Yeah, that's by design, right? He's just wasting time. As a troll, sometimes I would do this exact kind of thing, so it's like, but I don't think this guy's trolling. I think this guy is just a twat. Paintings exist on walls is the artist's way, he said it. Well, I mean, the steel man of that position is that, like, he's trying... Actually, you know what? I don't even think I could steel man that position, because that's a really stupid thing too, right? So, is it not a painting when when you take it off the wall, right? Is it not a painting when it's on an easel, but only when you put it on the wall to be like contemplated? Because to be fair, art doesn't really have, normally speaking, a pragmatic function. Its pragmatic function is to be contemplated, right? So. Yeah, actually, maybe he is more retarded than I was actually thinking, right? Kura, oh, hello, Kura. Kura, oh my god. So, fucking Quangos, right? Exactly. Fushizi. No, not Escher, Salvador Dali, yes. I knew Escher was wrong, but it was the only name that came to mind, and I was like, hold on, that's not right. Escher did more mathematical stuff. He's the guy who like, laid the foundation for Penrose tiling. Let's see. Cabot says, it just always stuck with me. I mean, that's fair. Just because it doesn't move me doesn't necessarily mean you're right. It's wrong to have moved you, right? Things move people in different ways. Let's see. Now we gotta go back. Okay, here we go. And again, as I said beforehand, oh, look at this. So, this page doesn't exist. I wonder why. I fucking wonder why. What is going on now? Okay, there we go. I wonder why. So, apparently this was inverse bra. Why so many deleted posts, right? This is unreasonably high use information. It really fucking is, right? Oh my god. This is the caliber of people we are actually having to deal with. Oh my god. So again, yes, can tell differences, extra different flowers, etc. Well, doesn't really answer the question. There's no substance behind that critique, right? What does the number of flowers have to do with determining the real one from the fake one, or determining AI from not AI? Absolute bullshit critique, right? You can tell this person is talking out of their ass because they're looking for something to grab onto, and they can't think of anything in the particular moment, so they pick something that they don't particularly like themselves, and they style it as if it's an objective criticism, when it is absolutely not. It is absolutely grasping at straws. It's a nitpick, pretending to be a legit critique. And again, did not even catch that he got in the first place. I fucking love this troll so much. This put such a smile on my face. I am so glad I got tagged in this shit. Right? Hold on. So, Fushizi said, the Sistine Chapel has no art at all since it's on the ceiling and not the walls, right? Oh my god. I can't even think about how to steel man that position. What the fuck does he mean, right? Is it not art unless it's recognized as art? Is that what he's saying, right? Unless it's hung up and recognized by someone as art, it's not art. Well, I hate to tell you this, then when people hang up, like when people actually recognize AI art as art, then it's by definition art, if that's the case you're looking for, right? Is it? There's one position in the critique of art where it's like it's more of a conventionalism, right? And actually I think that is the term conventionalism, but I'll have to double check that. But conventionalism holds the idea that art is what the art community like holds to be art. Now, that begs the question, what the fuck is the art community, right? Now we have to define another term in order to get to the definition of this term, and we're not even defining the thing as it is. We're actually working with a package deal that's very clearly ideologically motivated, let's be perfectly honest, right? So it is an absolute obfuscation tactic, and like this is if that's what they mean, then he is even more retarded than he thinks, because then what happens when the art community is split, right? First of all, what defines the art community? Again, as I said, right? Because again, a lot of the people in the sky in the pod, right, in the Skybrowse extended universe, in the fucking AI community so far, a lot of us actually do like work with our hands, right? We actually have drawn, we actually have done vectoring. Yeah, my model may not be very good, right, in the sense of like detailed, but I whipped this up in like 5 minutes in Illustrator. It wasn't exactly hard. But you know what I did in order to get this? I actually drew out multiple like poses for this to see which ones I wanted to use, since I knew I was going to make a PNG out of this, right? And I knew it didn't have to be so complicated. And for colors, I just used some hex codes, because guess what? I can't see some of these colors. So I was like, fuck it. I'll just look up what colors, like I'll actually try to ask around what colors to use, right? And I'll just use that. What the fuck is on my glasses? Okay. Anyway, sorry, I had to go on a rant about that because I fucking hate conventionalism as a like art theory. It is just so fucking. It is, again, the joke I was making earlier. Reality is whatever I want it to be, right? Whatever the community says it is, right? Like again, abnegate your own reason, abnegate your own ability to interact objectively with the world around you, and just go with what the community says, right? God, I hate these people. Sorry. Bit of a rant on my side. Where was I? Kuro says, didn't Escher do the stairs painting the bounds of reality art stuff? Yes, he was very much a mathematician and an artist at the same time. A lot of what he does is influenced by mathematics. In fact, actually, some of his stuff actually influenced mathematics as well. Again, I mentioned Penrose tiling because the whole idea for that came from MC Escher. Let's see. Firestorm Cabot. The impossible angle stairs? Yes. This is where you drop the count. Dankula. Oh no. Oh dear. What happened, meme, right? Right? Oh my god. Cabot says, nothing but sometimes numbers have an obscure meaning, or the flowers themselves have some certain meaning. Yeah, I mean, if you're using numerology or the language of flowers, which, you know, I mean, to be fair, artists do sometimes do, then yeah, that's fine. That can add, you know, that's part of the meaning of the piece. But again, if it wasn't part, like, unless you're doing that, it's like, what the fuck are we doing here, right? Are we doing exegesis, like actually trying to read out of the text what it actually says, or are we doing eisegesis, actually trying to force the text to say what it is we're trying to say? Those are two very different ways of working with this, and I'm gonna be perfectly honest. That kind of thing where it's like, again, number of flowers is like, yeah, I don't think this person is actually trying to do some kind of gematria analysis of this. It's like, I wager if this was made by a Hebrew with some training in the Kabbalistic styling, maybe the numbers might mean something, right? Let's do the counting and let's examine the flowers and their meaning. But I don't think that was actually intended in the piece, to be perfectly honest. I think that would be us in this case reading into the piece instead of like reading out of the piece. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, some people actually do that kind of thing, right? So it's like some people actually do put that kind of thought in there. But not everyone does, and I don't think this is one of the cases. I think that this entire piece was made to shit on these people, and glory be to him for doing this shit, right? Okay, so we already talked about Yeti. G Medici. Let's see this one right here, right? I would say that the allegedly real one here is superior in the sense that it carries and conveys more information than the artificial one. The dark, cold reflection of the trees triggers my attention. So, I mean, it just captures their attention more, but that alone doesn't actually carry information. They strike me as slightly off, too dirty, too pronounced to be natural. Like, great answer. Again, this is more of an imitativist conversation than anything else, but, let's see. Why not be humble? That infamous velocity. Put my foot 50 cents in here. Took the bite and stings a bit. Being played all naked, pretentious. The word, but I'll play my part. Stick to my guns and motives in here for the long run. Two-way haul. Considering Shlom's a fine artist. So Deyunde. Let's do this art wrap up. Yeah, I mean, again. If you could take your lumps, you could, get some respect from me, right? We're not going to go through this whole thread because this would be like a 5-hour video if we did that, right? Let's see. Kura says, Gnostic ass. Moron. Yeah, Gnostic ass more. Yeah, you know what? You're right. There is a little bit of Gnosticism inflected in like the mainstream art community. And yeah, this is one of the things where it's like, I've criticized artists to their face about this, where it's like, this is stupid and you are taking yourself way too fucking seriously, or you are not taking the situation nearly seriously enough. And this is X, Y, or Z reasons, but you can't really argue with people who believe that they have the enlightened view, right? Because if they are enlightened, then it's you who has to change their mind if the circumstances don't actually pan out, right? Enlightenment is fake and gay. Anyway, Fire Cabot says, that's the thing everyone reads into art. Then there are the shit posters, sometimes literally like in the modern... Yeah, I mean, that's true. I can't exactly read the mind of an artist, so to an extent, some of it very well may be eisegesis, even when I'm doing exegesis, but, we can at least try, right? Pushizi says, so, again, subjective thing, not an actual critique of how it's better. Yeah, again, this is a very common thing that we're going to get here. So this is Colborn.jpg. Okay, good, that is Colborn. I was wondering what the fuck that first character was. So, fair warning before I dig in, this image is actually a very competent rendition. We can at least grant this guy credit, right? It's a competent rendition. I would agree. It's not something I would personally buy, but, I mean, it seems to fulfill the very specific function it was made for, right? It's doing more right than most AI Monet pastiches, but you asked what makes it inferior to a real Monet, so let's be honest with the breakdown. Fucking hell. It says, who disconnected?
One eternity later.
Fucking bastard program. Hello, Fushizi. You missed me almost say a gamer word on stream. Right? Or apparently not on stream, but it would have been on the recording. Right? Okay. So now I have to apparently... What the fuck is going on with my YouTube? It says it's connected to YouTube, and it won't let me get to the part where, like... Thank you, Quatico. Right? Yeah, what the fuck is going on? I'm trying to get this thing back on YouTube, and it is being an absolute pain in my ass. Because apparently YouTube... Fushizi says, oh fuck yes, live at Cosmic Glowing, right? I hide it very well sometimes, right? And there goes my model. Are you fucking kidding me, right? We truly do live in a society. Well, hopefully the scuff is interesting in the video, right? Because, my god, man. Do I really have to redo the key? Because that's how I got it to work last time. I really don't want to have to reset the key. And it says it's like, okay, so it's public. Okay, the category is actually wrong. I just haven't changed the category. Hold on. Okay. Wait, what? Hold on. Fushizi says, no, what the fuck just popped up on my screen? I didn't press that. What the... Okay. Another window just popped up on my screen and jump scared me. Okay. Fushizi says, no, I heard it. It came back on right before you almost said it. Okay, fair enough, right? Well, apparently YouTube may just be shit out of luck, right? Which is annoying because I was getting a decent viewership on YouTube. I'm gonna try one thing. Hopefully this works. I'm gonna try stop it. Yeah, sure, discard delay. I don't really... It's not like this is... It's not like I haven't already apparently broken this YouTube video, or at least this YouTube stream up, so that's gonna be really fucking annoying. Let's copy this. Let's, like, reinsert the key. Hopefully that fixes it. Live, trying to fix stupid shit that shouldn't be a problem. Okay, let's see. I just want to get back to, like, clowning on people about this fucking AI thing, right? Like, is that so hard to ask? I'll probably have to put this in... I'll probably have to put this in a video editor to edit this entire section out, because this is detracting from the entire thing I'm trying to do here. What the fuck are you on about? What? Fushizi, what are you on about? Okay, there we go. We're back on YouTube. I fucking hate YouTube. YouTube, stop doing your is that bullshit, right? I understand. I fucking hate YouTube so much. Anyway, it should be as easy to set up a live stream on YouTube as it is on Twitch. This is fucking absurd. Anyway, so back where we were. Where the fuck were we, right? Okay. Okay, yeah, so, but you asked what makes it inferior to a real Monet. So let's be honest with the breakdown. What's missing? The physical object. All right. I'm gonna... Hello, Captain Rudy. You missed a bit of scuff just a moment ago, right? Setting up your Twitch, excellent, you know, Godspeed with that, Quatico, right? So let's see what he says about this, because, I don't think that this will stand up to scrutiny, but let's give the devil his due, right? A real Monet is a thing before it's an image. Well, there's a non-statement if ever I heard one. This is the biggest gap, and it's not solvable by better prompting. Okay. No impasto. Monet loaded paint thick. His water lily pads sit physically on top of the canvas. You can see the ridges where the brush dragged. The little peaks where the pigment piled up. Look at the... Okay, so he's talking about the three-dimensionality of the actual painting itself. Look at the lily pads in your image. They're smooth, tonal gradients pretending to be brushstrokes. A real one would catch raking light differently from the water around it. I hate to tell him this. I'm pretty sure I see literal textures. I'm pretty sure I see literal brushstroke textures on this piece. I don't know, maybe, you know, my uncle was a painter, so it's like, you know, I've had to see his paintings before, but, I'm just saying, I don't know, man, but, maybe not on the grasses per se, right, but, if you look at the lily pads themselves, I'm pretty sure I see around them, actual, like, textures that he's exactly referring to. Even across, even at the top, if you look right there, at the top right-hand corner, I see, you can't see my mouse, which is really annoying. I probably should have made my mouse visible, but Yeah, I think I see exactly what he says is not there. Hello, Raiju Tama. Yeah, you missed a little bit of scuff. Anyway, where the hell was I? Yeah. So Captain Rudy says, okay. I'm not reading that. He also says, I know, just got the new YouTube notification now. Fair enough, right? So, I'm making fun of people trying to be a little bit too highbrow for their own sake, and then getting absolutely blasted for it, right? Blasted not by the anyone in particular, but by reality itself, right? So, no canvas weave. Monet painted on linen with a specific tooth that broke up his strokes and let underlayers peek through. Your image has a uniform digital surface. The texture, quote unquote, is illusionistic, painted onto the pixels rather than emerging from the substrate. Oh boy, did that not... Oh boy, did that actually not come out very well, right? But, yeah, I mean, obviously you could also say that just because it's a fucking photograph, right? Of course you're not going to see that on a photograph. But anyway, no drying history. Real Monets have cracks, areas where wet into wet bled, areas where dry paint was scrumbled over dry paint. Pigments age differently. His cobalt blues shifted... Funny enough, I think Cobalt Blue was the name of a band in like a fictional band in the Witch series. Shifted. His mattered lakes faded. The image has no chronology in it. It's all painted at once. Anyone want to tell? Right? Like, oh yes, thank you. Yes, I got affiliated on Thursday. I was unable to stream on Friday, but yes, I literally just got affiliated. This is my first affiliated stream. Let's see. What's wrong with the marks themselves? Brushstroke direction is decorative, not descriptive. Oh, there's some airy words, right? Monet strokes do work. Vertical strokes for reflections of vertical things. Poplars, irises. Horizontal strokes for the water surfaces. Elliptical strokes that physically describe the floating disc of a lily pad. I think the word you're looking for is represent, not describe. What is this linguistic language you're using? In your image, the strokes are stylistically Monet-ish, but they don't consistently track what they're depicting. The reflections in the upper left, for instance, have stroke directions that don't quite resolve into a specific reflected object. Yeah, because it's a disturbance in the water. There's a disturbance, you can tell it's a disturbance in the water. Those don't tend to reflect the object in its whole, right? They tend to distort, they reflect, anyway. So, no hierarchy of finish. Monet had passages of intense detail next to passages of left almost raw. He'd finish a single lily blossom with 3 decisive touches and leave the whole quadrant of water as scumbled an understatement. AI tends to render everything at the same level of doneness. Your image is uniformly busy. I don't know about that. My eye definitely is drawn to a very specific area on this thing. So it's like uniform. So there is a definite hierarchy here. Because again, when I look at here, my eye goes to a very specific place on the piece. And like, I think everyone would agree, if you pay attention, where does your eye go first in the image? And I think we would agree it's not completely random, right? Like there is spots of higher and lower interest. Let's see. He didn't read my chat out loud. He's learning, right? Ironically, as I read your chat out loud, you know, without actually reading it beforehand, right? Let's see. Edges are too soft everywhere. Real Monet had surprisingly hard edges in places. The rim of a lily pad against the dark water can be a single confident knife edge stroke. AI defaults to blending, looking at the pads in your foreground. Their edges dissolve gradually. Monet's often don't. By the way, M dash. Now, granted, real people use the M dash, right? There's a reason the AI uses the M dash, because it turns out the M dash actually is something human beings use. Shocking, I know, right? But online, Very few people. I use the M dash, like, right? So, like, a hypocrite that thou art, right? But and, so does Kirsche, right? They actually use the M dash as well. But a lot of people, when they feed their writing through AI to get it to clean up their prose, will have M dashes all throughout the text. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've already found 6 M dashes. Now look, I use the M dash, but I don't use it that much, right? If we're gonna now look, maybe this guy actually did write this all out and he wrote it this way, right? But I don't know, man. Maybe I should put this into a AI writing detector, right? Let's see. Okay, where was I? AI defaults to blending. Look at the pads in your foreground. Their edges dissolve gradually. Monet's often don't. Color problem. I can't comment on this part because it turns out, again, I'm colorblind, so I can't exactly give you much feedback on this. The palette is plausible but generic. Monet's late Giverny palette was specific and slightly weird. Viridian, Cobalt Violet, French Ultramarine, Cadmium Yellow, Vermilion, Lead White. The unusual one is the violet. He used Cobalt Violet aggressively, and it shows up in shadows where you wouldn't expect. Your image has some purple in the lily pad rims, which is the right instinct, but the violets aren't doing structural work the way Monet's do. A lot of this is vacuous gas, as we can tell. Anyway, no optical mixing. Monet placed unmixed complementary colors next to each other, so your eye blends them at viewing distance. Pure orange next to pure blue, reading as a luminous neutral. Your image has colors that are already pre-mixed into harmonious midtones. It's pleasant, but doesn't vibrate. I read a lot of people with flowery language and gassy prose. I'm gonna be perfectly honest, right? Like, I've bitched about how Karl Marx writes in a very obfuscative way, right? I've complained about various people who write like modern grimoires posing as political, like, philosophy texts, and, like, again, how they write in very abstracted, non-concrete ways, and that in a specific way that, like, is completely obfuscative, doesn't actually explain anything. What the fuck did I just read? It's pleasant, but it doesn't vibrate. What the fuck are we talking about here, right? What is this? Right? Explain. Anyway, so. Let's see. The whites are wrong. Monet's whites are almost never white. They're tinted pink, blue, lavender. Well, I can't see pink either, so. Yellow, depending on the light conditions he was chasing. The white lily in your upper left is closer to a true neutral than Monet would ever paint. The conceptual gap. At least he played along, right? He was asked for a real criticism, and, he at least tried to give one. This is the part that actually matters, and the part no model will close. Oh, well, fucking irony. Monet was solving a problem. Each canvas in the Nymphias series is an answer to a specific question. What does this pond look like at 7 a.m. in August? Is that really a question? Is that really a question? Anyway, I mean, you can turn that into a question, but is that really a question when more likely he was actually just capturing beauty in nature, right? Just putting that out there. This sounds like someone reading into instead of reading out of a text. What happened to the reflection when the wind crosses the surface? Okay. The paintings are records of sustained looking at a real place he built and tended for 30 years. Your image is a style reference, not an observation. It's a painting of a Monet rather than painting of a pond. Okay. The irony is fucking... The irony here is delicious. Holy fuck. No hand, no decision, no risk. Okay. I love this troll so much. This is fucking brilliant. Every stroke in a real Monet was committed by a specific 80-year-old man with failing eyesight standing in a garden. The image has no author in that sense. The decisions are statistical averages of millions of images. What it does get right, worth saying. Now, I will say, if you ask an artist in the real world why it is he picked this line over this line, the answer is, it better completes the image. Right? Why did you pick this stroke? Because it better completes the image. That is really it. There is no particular deeper meaning other than they were trying to complete an image. The thing in whole, not in every individual piece, is necessarily meaningful. And I know this from experience, right? Like, I when I started drawing, I would draw, and then people would come out too skinny, and I wouldn't like it, so I would draw over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like, I would fiddle with every individual line until it finally reached a particular image that I particularly liked. If you would ask me, why did I pick this line over any of the other lines when I was doing that, I would say it is more aesthetically pleasing. It is more to what I was trying to do than any of the other lines. And if you ask me to justify it any further than that, my choice would have been, it simply looks better. It simply does what I'm trying to do more than the other lines, right? That's why I picked that line. But again, every single decision here apparently like has to be thought about with this with high degrees of precision. When in fact the majority of art, even like high-end artists, a lot of people won't admit this, but a lot of art is also statistical. Sometimes there will be an accident, and then we'll just fucking go with it, right? It's like, hold on, I can make something out of this, even though this isn't necessarily what I intended to in the first place. A lot of artists will not admit to how much some of their pieces are defined by, it was a happy accident. But anyway, so, this wanking besides, right? Let's continue. The compositional asymmetry is good. The reflected verticals rendering as trees, like irises, is a smart move. The pink lilies in the lower foreground are placed with reasonable intuition. If you cropped tightly to a 6-inch square anywhere in this image, it would pass a quick glance. The tail is always scale and surface. Stand 6 inches from a real Monet and it dissolves into chaos. Slabs of pigment that look like nothing. Stand 6 inches from this and it just looks like a slightly blurred version of itself. That collapse into abstraction upon up close is the thing you can't fake without paint. Wow, super comprehensive. Thank you. Notes suggesting context to be shown with the post. This is an actual Monet. Water lilies, circa 1915. Catalog number W1796. With possible color adjustment. Not purely AI generated one. OP is being misleading. The prank was ruined. But not before a lot of people fell for it. Fushizi. And artists wonder why we fucking hate them. It's not the art. Well, it depends on the artist. There are good artists out there. Conservative artists and libertarian artists tend to keep their head down. Because, again, having actually grown up in a family which actually helped the local art community, I can tell you right now, leftist artists are very corrosive, very generally speaking, right? They pull this kind of bullshittery, try to pretend like they understand your piece better than you understand it when you literally made it and made all the decisions regarding the piece, right? And sometimes they will point out something that is actually important. It's like, oh shit, I didn't think about that, but that's actually a good piece of mechanical observation, right? About how the piece actually works. But also, no, sometimes they do exactly this, where it's like, this is absolute fucking vanity right here, right? Anyway. Oh my god. And this is actually fucking great. So, the brilliance of this critique is that it accidentally exposes the central weakness of AI criticism itself. It mistakes the mythology of authorship for the perceptual reality of art. I mean, I think that's a good point, right? The text surrounds the authoritative because it deploys the language of connoisseurship, impasto, cobalt violet, optical mixing, drying history, series logic, but its authority collapses the instant you learn the image was actually painted by Claude Monet himself. Yeah. You know what? I might have to just do an AI reading of this entire thing, because this is brilliant. But we're gonna do this here now, because I'm having a blast going through this Twitter feed. Oh my god, I haven't had this much fun going through a Twitter feed in a while. This might be the subject of this entire stream, to be perfectly honest, because I'm just having fun. Sorry. I know, my taste is a little eclectic sometimes. The revelation transforms the critique from insightful analysis into a demonstration of automated pattern matching masquerading as aesthetic judgment. The critique is not wrong because its observations are technically false. Many are plausible. The problem is deeper. It performs recognition instead of perception. The essay begins with supreme confidence. This image is actually a very competent rendition. The sentence already reveals the machine logic underneath. The work is approached not as an artwork, but as a category membership test. The critic is not asking, what am I seeing? It is asking, how successfully does this resemble my statistical understanding of Monet? Fucking annihilated. Right? I keep telling people, it's like the machine doesn't think nearly as differently from a human being as you think it does, right? Yeah, sure, the machine thinks through token prediction, but what do you think your brain is doing when it's when it's going after, when it's making decisions about dopamine reception and serotonin reception, right? What do you think that it's doing with all those things when it's actually again, anticipating neurochemical reward systems? Yes, your brain works on token prediction as well. It's not the same kind of token prediction, but your brain does token prediction as well to help judge what it is it's going to do, in the near and far term. That's also where time preferences come in, right? Where do you get, which one gets you the most biological tokens? But anyway, so I'm gonna get a drink of my Pepsi. Oh my god. So, but yes. How successfully does this resemble my statistical understanding of Monet? Fucking bodied right here. Because he's fucking right. Like, it's like, artists can, it turns out, break away from the thing that they normally do, right? Every fucking artist does this. And this entire absolute self-masturbatory essay we just went through, like, it treats Monet as, like, again, sorry. So, anyway, hold on. I got a couple things in the chat. Fushizi says, fucking Christ, that was entirely fake and gay. Yes. Captain Rudy says, go figure. Fushizi, you don't say leftists are corrosive? Who would have thought? I mean, yeah, you have examples like Shoe on Head, right? But, there's a lot of leftists out there who are definitely corrosive and snakes. Because, again, they're relatively conservative people helping the community, actually, like, they'll take the help from a rightist, but talk shit about your back, right? I saw that all the time, right? Especially because being on the libertarian side of things, I've been called a leftist and I've been called a rightist, right? So I've been called both things, so I got a window into that particular dual-sided conversation. Turns out the right-wing artists treated the left-wing artists better than the left-wing artists treat the right-wing artists. Oh, again, pattern recognition, right? It's you who's bad for noticing. But anyway, long story short, so I am very well aware also that, like, a lot of people, unless they know that you're on, like, the outside of the ideological, like, Gramscian controlled section of the arts, they won't talk about politics as, like, how they really feel, or even philosophy or religion as they really feel, unless they feel as if you're safe to talk around, because, again, some of these people go for, like, reputation destruction. And, there's actually a decent chunk of people in the art community who keep their head down, but actually disagree with the mainstream art consensus. Let's see. Captain Rudy says, it's like telling the author of a book that you don't, that you understand the characters better than they do. I mean, it is theoretically possible if you're not a very mindful reader, but that being said, not a very mindful writer. That being said, you are correctly right? The vast majority of times, it's like, no, No, like obviously, unless the writer has like no vision whatsoever that they're doing, the writer almost always knows what they're trying to do with the characters than like the reader is, because they're actually the ones making the piece, right? You have to be a particularly kind of absent-minded writer to actually fall into you actually don't understand what you're trying to do, right? But there are people who do fall into that. Captain Rudy says, imagine using AI to post a response to a critique that was made by AI to critique an image that someone claims to have made using AI. It's AIception, right? Again, right? Fushizi, I will not get off the fucking hill of AI thinking is human thinking just abstracted. There are some differences between AI cognition and human cognition, but it's not nearly as different as people think. I actually agree with Sabina Hossenfelder and Liquid Zulu on this thing in particular, right? I don't care that AI doesn't have the magical property of qualia that, by the way, you also can't define you can't really define in a concrete way, that you have to be, it's completely abstract definition, but, you know, I digress, right? Kura says, this particular scenario is definitely getting a cameo. Oh my god. Go ham, man, right? Hey, okay, so let's get back to taking this fucker down, right? A human art historian encountering uncertainty would usually slow down. They would compare periods, provenance, pigments, dimensions, surface irregularities, photographic conditions, restoration artifacts, exhibition history, or reproduction quality. Human criticism begins with doubt. AI criticism begins with completion. The text proceeds, and yes, you know what, fair enough, right? I oftentimes have to ask myself, hold on, am I reading too much into this, right? So the text proceeds by inventing absences that cannot actually be verified from the image itself. For example, no impasto, no canvas weave, no drying history. Yeah. I wonder why I wonder why they did this. Cannot actually be verified. It's almost as if, again, they're avoiding responsibility for what they say, right? They're avoiding being held accountable for being a dumbass. Anyway, hold on. Let's see. Captain Rudy says, yeah, we're not living in a world where AI is self-aware and making its own independent choices. It's like, Fushizi, oh no, it has no soul. You can't prove I have a soul either. I mean, you kind of can with the human being. The soul is just, by definition, the vital principle of a living body. So, if you are alive, by definition, you have a soul, right? So it's like, dogs have souls if they're alive. Human beings have souls if they're alive. Cats have souls if they're alive. There's nothing in the word soul itself that actually indicates any kind of like afterlife or magical quality. From the Aristotelian definition, it is simply that which makes a body alive versus not alive. So, if you are alive, you have a soul, by definition. We're just taking all of the magical properties that people usually ascribe to a soul. This Captain Rudy says, reminds me of the Geth in Mass Effect. Does this unit have a soul? Right. So, let's see. This sounds convincing until you realize the critic is evaluating a digital reproduction, not the physical object. Even genuine Monet reproductions flatten impasto and erase subtle surface qualities depending on lighting, compression, scan resolution, museum photography, or screen rendering. The critique speaks as though it has tactile access to the painting when it does not. Remember when I said, again, I can literally see the things that he's saying are not on here. For example, again, the ripple patterns. If you pay attention to the ripple patterns, you can literally physically see where the paint seems to actually, again, rise up, as he was talking about, like the height differences between like where the paint, how the paint is laid down on there. That's what I was thinking earlier, right? But again, guess what? That's going to be flattened out if you take a photograph, because it turns out you can't investigate the three-dimensional qualities of a photograph of a three-dimensional entity, right? I mean, maybe if you did like an electron microscope like reproduction, but anyway, this is why maybe we should start working on 3D printers for paintings, right? You want to buy a realistic down to the like angstrom reproduction of a Monet, right? let's get a 3D printer. Let's get a 3D printer and then paint the 3D printing, right? Oh my god. God, I am so interested to see where these technologies go. Anyway, where were we? The critique speaks as though it has tactile... I already said that. That is quintessential AI rhetoric. It converts limitations of evidence into certainty through stylistic fluency. Abso-fucking-lutely. This is con man epistemology, or con epistemology, right? Hold on. Hold on. Fushizi says, is the neural net alive then? No, the neural net is not alive. It does not have the functions, the properties of a living organism. That doesn't mean it doesn't think. A great achievement of the human being has been we literally taught rocks how to think. Fushizi's, let's see, says, by the way, I get... Oh, okay. Fushizi says, by the way, I can get thick as fuck impasto in my AI images if I want. Yeah, it turns out you can prompt for a lot of this stuff, right? Captain Rudy says, do it. Fushizi says, I already have. I used it in the Asmongold video heavily. Ooh, I'm going to have to check that out at some point. But we're going to get through this. Let's see. A human critic might say, the reproduction obscures the physical paint surface. The AI critique instead says, the surface does not exist. That leap from uncertainty to declaration is the tell. The most fascinating failure appears in the section about brushwork. The critique claims Monet strokes are descriptive, while that painting strokes are merely decorative. But if the work actually is a Monet, then the analysis retroactively exposes itself as projection. The writer is not reading the marks themselves, it is reading expectation into them. Abso-fucking-lutely, right here. It is reading expectation into them. He is calling him out for doing eisegesis instead of exegesis. Fucking called it. I'm so glad someone else was writing this better than I could have, to be perfectly honest. Right? This is what AI systems do often do with art. They hallucinate intentionality from stylistic stereotypes. The essay contains an idealized internal model of a real Monet. Decisive edges, asymmetric finish hierarchies, structured violet uses, optical vibration. By the way, still don't know what the fuck this means. Abstraction up close. Then compares the image against that mythology rather than against Monet's actual widely inconsistent body of work. But real painters are inconsistent. And yes, they are, right? What's that? Yeah, anyone who's ever done anything that they've been actually trying to do, right? It will resonate with that one line in, what is it, Cream of the Slop? Don't look in his grotto, right? Yeah, because it turns out, again, you got to kill a lot of your darlings in your attempts to get something to be as to the point that you want it to be, right? So, yes, turns out, and this goes for not just AI producers, although AI producers have to throw away a lot of what they gen too, because it doesn't match what they're actually trying to do. Yeah, it turns out artists make mistakes, and I actually have some catalogs about that later in this thing, because it turns out if you're too perfect, you get accused of being an AI. If you're not perfect enough, you get accused of being an AI. You can't win with these people because they figured out that it can be a weapon to be used. But anyway. Claude Monet painted loose and tight. He painted muddy and luminous. He painted exhausted rushes, obsessive, overworked, unfinished, repetitive, transcendent, and occasionally bad. Human artists are not statistical averages of their masterpieces. Ironically, the critique accuses AI of exactly the thing it itself is doing, constructing a synthetic Monetness assembled from cultural consensus rather than direct observation. Yes. Oh, I love this. I'm going to drop a follow to this man. I don't know who you are, but fucking absolutely on point. The line, AI tends to render everything at the same level of doneness, becomes unintentionally self-descriptive. Because the critique itself has the same tonal flatness. Every paragraph arrives with identical confidence, identical cadence, identical rhetorical certainty. There is no moment of hesitation, surprise, discovery, revision, or emotional encounter with the work. The prose performs expertise continuously. Human criticism usually contains friction, moments where perception resists interpretation. The essay also reveals a modern bias in AI-generated criticism. It overvalues process mythology. There we fucking go. I've critiqued this shit before too in previous videos. I've talked about processionalism. Oh my god. So processionalism, remember we talked about imitativism, we talked about emotivism, and we talked about conventionalism in art, right? So those are different ways of critiquing and evaluating and defining what art is, right? Another one in the history of art criticism and art theory is processionalism. So processionalism is the idea that art is not a finished product, it is a process, right? This obviously this obviously is derived from process philosophy, which is an evil anti-human philosophy, but I digress. Processionalism just applies process philosophy to art itself, and to be fair, processionalist analysis can actually be useful. This is actually where, again, if you do painting or you do digital art or you do like music writing and you do live streams of this stuff, this is exactly what people are doing. They are like watching the process, right? And that is what the processionalist is interested in, not the finished product, but how you get from noise to denoised, actually, how you to signal. So the movement from noise to signal, from potentiality reduced to actuality, right? How do you turn chaos of potential and fight it and like rein it in to an ordered, meaningful output? That is what a processionalist studies, and there is real use for processionalist analysis. Right? This is actually why I really do like watching riggers and like digital artists live stream, because you can see exactly what they're doing, and then you can actually go look at how it is they do. This is also why I like speed, when people do the recordings and they speed, even if they speed it up, right? You can still, if you slow it down, get an idea of how exactly the process they're doing to make this thing works, right? Processionalism is actually a really good tool to develop skill, but it is not a final theory and can never be a final theory of the arts, because art is not a process. When I go and I pay someone for a painting, or I go and I pay someone for a book, or I go and I pay someone for like a music CD, guess what? I'm not paying for the process, I'm paying for a finished product, right? If I pay for it and I get an unfinished work, I'm going to be kind of pissed, to be perfectly honest. And rightfully so, because I'm not paying for the process, I'm paying for the final product. But processionalism can help you understand how you get from pure potentiality to the final product. But processionalists themselves, like the people who have this aesthetic theory, don't view it that way. They view, again, art as a process, not as a thing in and of itself. And they do that because if they can define it as a process and not a thing, then again, they can avoid accountability for the shitty art that they make. But anyway, so you can tell I'm a little bit annoyed by this, because art criticism is very vacuous at times, and I get very annoyed by it. Oh my god, I have to go back and read some of these. Captain Rudy says, I have a 3D printer. I have a nozzle tip that's 0.04 millimeters in diameter and prints in layers that are 0.2 millimeters thick. 3D printing plus paint, just like a spray on paint. Maybe we can like start doing like a fake painting line, if we can figure out how to do that. I don't know. I don't do the 3D printing thing. That's just because I don't have time for it. Captain Rudy says, yeah, Fushizi has videos on Asmongold, Kirsha, Leaflet, and Nux. All four are absolute bangers. I will put those in the list. Fushizi says, I'm so happy Cosmic understands the big words so I don't have to. God damn it. Fushizi says, as someone who was trained on CNC machining, the entire point of tolerances is that nothing is perfectly consistent, but they can be predicted. Exactly. It's like if a CNC machine router, right? If a machine, which I've had to work with some of these machines too. If these machines literally, you could be, some of these things, like, again, are like, because I used to work with angstrom scale production, tolerances, but again, it's still tolerances, even at angstrom scales, literally to the point where you have to use an electron microscope to really detect these things. It's still not perfect. You still need tolerances because it's not perfect. It's not perfect. If a machine that again works on angstrom scales, again, we're talking like atoms, we're talking about measurements used for atoms and molecules, right? Then what the hell makes you think that a human being is going to be perfectly consistent? This is, again, the person that we read was treating art as if it was like the production of some kind of abstract Platonic artist, and not an artist who lives in a concrete, imperfect reality, right? So, fucking Fushizi, Cosmic is so fucking bricked by this post. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to pretend like it's something wholesome. Captain Rudy says, it's all about programming and calibration, which are done by humans and are therefore subject to the infallibility of the person in charge of programming and calibration of the machine. Fushizi at Captain Rudy, even a perfectly programmed and set up machine has variations. As humans, we've made it so the variations on the level of 0.0001, so 10,000th of an inch, but it still exists. There's entire branch of science dedicated to measuring, since it always is a variable. Fujii says it's not until you get to stuff like EDM that you get zero tolerance machinings. Captain Rudy says, and zero tolerance machining is so precise that only a few people and machines are able to accomplish it. And Kura says, the dude absolutely nailed this shit. I would agree. Yes. Ushizi says, Cosmic was working on the individual atoms level, and even then you have tolerances. Yeah. Anyway, so... so I actually like processionalism as a teaching instrument. I fucking hate it as an art theory, because it is absolutely an evil theory. But anyway... but that's because process theology and process philosophy are evil models. Let's see. I'm not going to read that. Thank you for the clarification, though. Let's see. Notice how much of the critique depends not on the image, but on the romance surrounding the art. Yes! It's the mystification. Again, there is this mystical theory about this is mystical perception people have about artists, right? Because to a certain extent, to reduce chaos into into order, right, is kind of magical. That's why people sometimes see AI as a little bit like sorcery, because it kind of is. I literally speak words, and depending on how well I speak words for my vision, we move from, again, a cloud of pure potentiality into a concrete, again, actuality. And yeah, this mystification of the artist is a long-running thing. This is not a modern thing. People have been bullshitting artists for a very long time, trying to romanticize them as if they're more than what they really are. Which is, to be fair, a lot of the things that we call art nowadays would have historically been called trades, not art, right? Painting was at one point a trade, and furniture making was at one point considered an art. Nowadays, we consider furniture making, furniture crafting, a trade, and painting an art. So it's it's kind of interesting how that inversion actually happened. Why did it censor massive? Interesting. You didn't censor it on my side. So anyway, where was I? So, a specific 80-year-old man with failing eyesight standing in a garden. I forgot about this too. I actually didn't even catch this. Absolutely correct. This goes to... So there's in literary criticism, there's a biographical criticism theory in literary criticism where you try to extrapolate, the author's life, how the author's life affected a work, and how the work, relates to the author's life. And I find it to be the most vacuous and boring of the literary theories out there, because I'm trying to study the work in itself, right? That's my entire goal if I'm doing literary criticism. I'm trying to understand how the thing in and of itself works. The most I have tolerance for this shit is intentionalism, which is only useful, in my opinion, in trying to understand, if we know what the author's intention is, and then we know what the final product is, how well or poorly do they actually succeed in communicating that intent to the actual reader. It's the only use that I think intentionalism really has, right? Any other use of intentionalism, I think, is absolutely, foolish. But anyway, that's just me. So, it turns out that the time for that useless degree is actually paying off, isn't it? Right? So, that sentence is emotionally powerful because it invokes biography, mortality, and authenticity. But it also reveals the central paradox. Once the painting is known to be real, the critique suddenly becomes meaningful again without changing a single pixel. Yes, Oh my god. Nothing visual has changed. Only metadata has changed. Abso-fucking-lutely. Yes. Oh my god. This man, oh, I love this man. That means the critique was never fundamentally image-based. It was provenance-based. Moreover, I would say it was never based in reality. Right? It was always based in perception. So, a human critic can certainly be fooled too, but when humans are fooled, the error often reveals personal taste, ideological bias, historical framing, or emotional investment. When AI is fooled, the error usually reveals overfitted pattern recognition. The critique's final flourish is especially revealing. Stand 6 inches from a real Monet, and it dissolves into chaos. This is an inherited art school cliche, not entirely false, but culturally recycled. The statement functions rhetorically because readers already believe it should be true of Impressionism. The critique succeeds socially because it activates familiar narratives about authenticity and genius. In other words, the text sounds intelligent because it knows what art criticism is supposed to sound like. That is the core issue. AI-generated criticism often excels at reproducing the texture of interpretation, authoritative vocabulary, historical references, balanced structure, persuasive cadence, emotionally resonant conclusions. But genuine criticism requires vulnerability to the object itself. A real critic can be surprised by a painting. They can discover they were wrong. They can change their mind halfway through looking. They can become embarrassed by an earlier judgment. They can encounter something they lack language for. This critique never risks that. It begins already knowing the answer. This is imitation. And once that assumption is inserted, every observation reorganizes itself around confirming it. Ironically, that makes this critique more AI-like than the painting it condemns. This man fucking coughing baby versus hydrogen bomb. Holy shit. Hold on. I'm bookmarking that shit. I want to return to this at some point in the future. Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, at least he gave it a fire, right? Honestly, this whole subthread is one or another kind of art, right? So, yeah, fair enough. AKA, when you look for witches to hunt, you'll find them. Let's see. So OP puts up a real Monet, says it's AI, and this other dude plugs in a prompt to have Claude critique the supposedly fake Monet for him, and then you see Claude use Claude to applaud the AI critique. This is objectively He wasn't applauding the critique. He wasn't applauding the critique. My guy and my brother, can you not read? Anyway. AI critiquing a painting it was told was AI. Okay. I mean, even if that's true. Oh shit, that was the wrong button. But anyway. So, yeah. That was definitely fun. That was a rabbit hole I didn't expect to go under, right? Hold on. Alright, what did we miss in the chat? Fushizi, any sufficiently advanced technology appears as magic. Right? The old Arthur C. Clarke quote. You could also say any sufficiently analyzed magic is indistinguishable from science, which is the inverse of that principle. Kura says, lol, it censored massive in your sentence, Rudy. Oh, God. Fushizi says, I don't give a fuck about the artist or author. I only care for the works. I mean, that is a legitimate position to take, right? Ultimately speaking, like, the artist is remembered for what he does, right? If Leonardo da Vinci didn't produce the works that he produced, would he be remembered by his name? It is his works as much as it is the person who made it. Let's see. You can tell because I can watch anime without constantly calling out voice actors. That is true, right? Let's see. See, I'm gonna skip this guy because he already says I am no real artist, right? So not even really gonna bother with this. Let's see. Let's go with this one. Grant Beset. Oh, actually, hold on. Let's see if someone did this because I know someone. Yes, we finally got to it. So some people have started screenshotting these posts. So What did this person answer? This is Margaret, right? Depth, contrast, and cohesion are the most obvious. There's also no clear focal point. I disagree. Again, my eye is very clearly drawn to a very specific focal point in this image. That being said, post is unavailable. Fucking great, right? So, let's see. What about this one? Nope, no one archived this one. So, perfect 10 out of 10 answer. No notes, thank you. But status is unavailable, deleted. But luckily, again, people started archiving this shit, which they should. They absolutely should archive these clowns. Well, let's see. I don't think this is gonna top what we just went through, but the fact that it looks like shit and is shit, slop, doesn't look anywhere near like a Monet, looks exactly like someone trying to replicate the style and achieving like 20% of it. Not as vibrant as Monet's typical choices of colors. Looks dull. Deleted. Sad face. Right? Said, hey, they said it was there. But it's not. And also, by the way, let's go back to this. This person said the tweet is still there. The author just blocked you. No. No, he didn't. He did fucking delete this. Let's see. Captain Rudy says rabbit hole, more like black hole, right? Then he said at Kura, wow, lol, damn clankers, right? Let's see. Spam hate. Nah, RDL dog. Everyone just laughing at you. Hold on. Did they fucking crash out about this? Why would I do that? Hold on. It looks. I took a screenshot in case you delete it out of shame. Laugh my fucking ass off. Why would I do that? Y'all are acting like I said something crazy. If it turned out to be Monet, okay, it's shittier than other works he's done, and I. Oh my god, Luddites all really all are fake and gay. Let's look at this shit. Let's see what they actually post. PSA: don't piss off or interact with or fall for pro AI artists' posts, rage bait, engagement bait, or else they will just spam hate on you. I just blocked like 50 people laughing my fucking ass off. Have fun being pacified by AI though. Okay, we are actually dealing with someone who has we're dealing with a retard, right? Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Let's see if we got any more here. Fantastic critique. What is this? For completeness. Here we go. I got this one that has since been deleted. Let's look at this. I am an AI art enjoyer, but the longer I look at this banger, the wider the gulf grows between it and the AI version. The parent tweet lots of great comments explaining why too. AI tools are best used when used to push boundaries, not replicate existing styles. Again, turns out it was a real thing. It was real. It was not a copy. It was not a forgery. It was the thing that it was the thing, right? Oh my god. So yeah, it just keeps going. Look at this shit. It goes on and on and on and on. Again, if I went through all this, what the fuck is going on here? I present you my eye lines. The thickness denotes how quickly my eye moved. One has a sensible, meandering composition that fits the subject. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, but this was a banger I need to record for posterity. Okay, fair enough. Interesting. Okay. Game is game, as they say, right? Oh my god. At least this one tried to explain it through the fucking use of, like, eyeline tracking. I'll give him that, right? He's still retarded. He still got duped by this. One, it doesn't involve paint. Two, it required no painting skills by you. Oh, the fucking irony, right? Three, it's a copy of someone else's genius. Four, it's AI slop. Detailed enough. All the best critics block me before I can thank them. Right? Oh my god. But, yeah, so, there's that. But I have other things related to this to add to this conversation, right? Because this is not a unique occurrence. This is something that is a bit of an issue in the anti-AI community. So let's move on to something. Let's see this. So I have to thank again Itami and Pasta for this shit. They didn't post tag me in this. I think they actually tagged me in here. But this is the greatest art experiment in decades. Someone needs a video about it to do a video about it. Oh wait, shit, this was where I was tagged. I'm waiting for the A Cosmic Otaku breakdown. Definitely would be a weekend video, right? So they tagged me on this on May 14th. So that was like what was that, Thursday? Actually, hold on, that's a good question. Let me check something. Yep, that was Thursday. So I am so glad that people were archiving this shit, because this was so fucking fun. Before we move on to the articles, I want to catch up with the chat, right? Let's see. Captain Rudy, I'll spam them with D's nuts. Classic, right? Fushizi, bro, everything is an existing style already, right? Kura responding to Captain Rudy, do you know what the truly hilarious thing will be? When AI is inevitably mainstream and the same people, quote unquote, will shout racism every time someone calls an AI clanker and say they were pro-AI all along, rolling on the floor laughing. I was in a leftist, actually I was on VR chat with a bunch of leftists yesterday. And I made a joke because someone said clanker, and they were like, except for Neuro. Neuro's not a clanker. And I was like, yes, we have the token clanker here, right? Right. And yeah, that definitely changed the conversation quite a bit, right? Let's see. Ever seen Cosmic in pink? You know what? I think someone actually did do a render with me in pink, actually. Let's see. Fushizi says, at Captain Rudy is a recolor, a style, though. Captain Rudy says, at Kura, oh, you mean the same people who call people crazy 70 years ago for saying that black people deserve the right to vote? Well, as he Fushizi said, yeah, you know what? Democrats and leftists, right? Fushizi, let's see. That's the thing with the 100 to 200k years of human evolution. If an idea is possible, it's been had before. And Captain Rudy says, depends on who you ask. So let's see. Let's move on to this, right? We're still going to be talking about the Monet thing, but Daily Caller. Opinion. Genius art prank shows major problem with artificial intelligence. It's too good. They're learning, right? Get replaced, you. To all the people who are doing unethical art practices by not communicating with the fucking people paying for you when you need to do delays and stuff like this, by again, like holding people's products hostage after they've already paid for it, by trying to coerce people into saying things that they want, or you'll try to attack them socially for being an art mama who doesn't like AI art. All y'all can get replaced. I don't give a shit about any of you people. But all the human artists who are actually doing the things that they do ethically and actually treating their customers with respect and actually holding themselves to the bit of grace, you will survive, even if your art isn't particularly good, because people will appreciate that. Anyway, let's go. So yeah, this is all just about this, and we already saw this, right? So I'm not gonna read this, but even the Daily Caller is admitting, yeah, this got everyone good. So let's move on to, since we've already spent enough time on this particular thing, I'm just saying this even made the news, right? So let's move on, because there's a history behind here of artists not being able to tell the difference between human-made art and AI art, and I find it really funny. So let's remember. I think we all remember this one. Artist deletes Twitter after false AI accusations. This happens more often than you'd think, right? So once again, it happened on Twitter. A Japanese artist created an adorable fan art of Mitsuri from the anime Demon Slayer. I'm not gonna read. Yeah, Demon Slayer Kimitsu no Yaiba. I don't know why they put the fucking Japanese and the English together like this. But anyway, but their work was mistaken for AI generated art. This prompted someone to claim it was AI, leading to quite the fallout. Artist deletes Twitter after false Okay, I don't know why they did that. A few days ago, an artist known only as Soyeon P shared the fan art of Mitsuri below. Isn't it cute? However, another user, Zentrie, made annotations over the artwork claiming it was created by AI. Now, can't unsee it. And here we go, right? So, this fucking, what the smiley face, right? I mean, not the smiley face, but like the frowny face. Like, what kind of critique is that? Right, so it's like the critique, at least the one with the arm. It's like, okay, I mean, I disagree with the critique, but because it could be explained by stylistic decision, but you know, at least that has a word in there, right? Again, didn't really draw the fingers all the way to the base. Yeah, guess what? That's a common thing to do when you're doing highly abstracted art. You can see that all the way, all the time in like manga, by the way, which is, by the way, why they did this. Again, they point to the hand, redraw the hand, but slightly, again, less abstracted AI, right? Even though you can literally see all they did to make the critique work is turn the hand. They just rotated the hand in three-dimensional space to get a different view, when you could also see that exact pose if you use your own hand and just turn it, right? You just turn it, and you can get that exact lining. So, yeah. Again, you got a circle on a tangent, you got a circle on like some shadows here, you got a circle on, again, the shadows, like the weak shadow work right here. Apparently, the leg is broken, push more, right? No ribs, you know, again, forgetting that we're not dealing with a realistic piece, we're dealing with what's almost certainly a more abstractive, emotivistic piece, right? Again, imitativism is not the end-all, be-all. So, again, just... yeah, a lot of petty art critiques, or a lot of petty art nitpicks, and apparently that's enough to prove that you're AI, right? So, oh, by the way, don't think I didn't notice the blue butterfly. Zentrie's accusation resulted in the Japanese artist receiving numerous attacks, which ultimately led them to close their account. According to a circulating screenshot, Soyeon P mentioned they had been drawing Mitsuri for the past 3 years and decided to delete their account. This is fucking infuriating, in my opinion, right? Right? You didn't live up to my standards of art, and so I'm going to nitpick you and then accuse you of doing something that we all think is highly unethical. And then we're also going to say that you didn't actually do any of the work that you actually did, right? Absolutely deplorable and vile behavior. So, after the truth surfaced that Sion P was not using AI, Zentrie became the target of backlash. As you should, to be perfectly honest, right? This was an attempt at reputation destruction, and guess what? If you try reputation destruction unjustly, your reputation should suffer the same consequences. Receiving numerous comments and community notes criticizing her actions, which contributed to the artist's account deletion. Fuya, an artist I follow and through which, whom I learned about the incident, shared their opinion. Literally, not a single one of these things they circled are a sign of AI. I think people who have never drawn anything in their life themselves should stop role-playing as AI police. They delete the post. They should have deleted themselves from the internet forever. I don't go this far. This is an overblown right here. They don't deserve an internet connection. Probably felt so cool drawing circles on other people's art. Yeah, no, this is a little bit too far. They should just stop being retarded, right? They should be, again, made to account for their unacceptable behavior, and then preferably their retardation should be shamed. But yeah, no, maybe not that far. And again, this is a bit of an old article, so you can see a lot of these pictures just don't exist anymore. But yeah, so yeah, we have this example. I know Kat Yente, or whatever the fuck her name is, that one T channel, talked about this. And I refused to watch her channel after the whole incident she had with Alicia X Death. But yeah, so we have historical examples of this. Here's another example. Uncomfortable tension caused by AI and artistic non-realism. Again, realism is not the end-all be-all. So, and this is about, let's see, last semester I wrote an article cautioning against overzealous accusation of using artificial intelligence in the creative process. I still stand by the broad strokes of the concerns I raised, but the longer I thought about it, the more I felt I missed the necessary point. The reality is that it's quite easy to identify AI realism. There are a lot of tells. Hands are stereotypical ones, as are confusing spelling or sudden disruptions in what should be consistent strokes. By the way, confusing spellings could also just be if someone doesn't understand the language. I've seen that happen before. Everyone has seen an anime where they've misspelled an English word in a really cartoony way, right? Let's see. Oh yeah. Sudden disruptions in what should be consistent strokes, such as a stripe or a necklace, among others. Generally, the details of the image become worse the longer you look. The issue is primarily in what I'm going to refer to as artistic non-realism, and I want to explore this relationship. First of all, what is artistic non-realism? For the sake of this article, I'll be using it to refer to art that is intentionally and actively not realistic. This includes some formal artistic movements. Cubism, abstract, surrealism come to mind immediately, but also include things like caricature, chibi, many styles of 2D animation. These aren't just series of flats that mimic body forms but lack aesthetic shading, or an artist who struggles with anatomy. These are active choices to distort form as part of the art. Let's just say that these are actually like anatomical issues, right? Again, with the foot, with the shadow here in the leg, the arm, the hip right here. If you can see, there's a line showing the hip should attach closer to the waist, which is apparently not. I don't think that they actually looked at the other side. But anyway, let's just say that's all true on an anatomical level, right? Well, they're not trying to represent a human body in the real, right? It's an abstracted human form. Oops. Hold on. Oh my god, I missed a bit. Okay, let's see. I gotta find out where we left off in the comment section. Okay, so I was past that. Let's see. Captain Rudy says that also means that nothing is truly original. Everything has been inspired by something they saw or heard and made their own interpretation of it. Kura says, I call Ben our Tolkien clanker all the time. Well, fair enough. Captain Rudy says, I was the one who made the pink render of you and the render of you in pink. Oh yeah, thank you. That was a really good render. Fushizi says, it's the Simpsons paradox. Everything has been done already by the Simpsons. Yeah. Captain Rudy says, and even then, I guarantee you 95 to 99% of everything we saw on The Simpsons was inspired by something or someone on the production team saw or heard. Yeah. Fushizi says, I absolutely love this. They are hard awakening that AI is much bigger threat than they ever fucking imagined. So much sooner than they ever thought was possible. Yep. Not always, Rudy says, not always on Twitter, but always on Twitter. Yeah. Captain Rudy says, I'll bet P equals proud gooner. Oh, God. Let's see. Fitting given where he's from. Possibly. Fushizi says, I already have the problem with the critique. Who the fuck draws the ribs in when using this style? The entire point of the style is to simplify away from realism. Exactly. It's an abstracted human form. They actually mean deletion from the internet, but that's my interpretation. It's a bit hard going, but I think it's fine. Yeah, I think they should just stop being quangos. Captain D says, exactly. Just like with movies, Neil deGrasse Tyson was once asked what he thought about the physics in Guardians of the Galaxy. He said, I bought into the idea this movie has a talking raccoon that shoots artillery from heavy weaponry off its shoulder. If I can accept that, I'm good with whatever else they delivered in the film. That's an actually unusually salient Neil deGrasse Tyson quote. Holy crap. And then Captain Rudy says, the whole point of art is to create an escape from reality. That is not the point of art. It is the point of some art. The point of art is the concretization of a metaphysic. But that's for our later time, right? So, where was I? Okay. While there's certainly a fair number of people who use the style to be pretentious, there is also a lot of real reasons it's popular. Caricature can highlight unflattering features, making it popular in satire, parody, and other forms of art that mock a target. Chibi does almost the opposite, exaggerating cute and almost childlike qualities. Surrealism can be a good way to explore themes like mental illness or invisible problems in visual media. There's a lot of potential reasons an artist might gravitate towards aesthetic non-realism. It also could just be you like how it looks, right? Let's be real. Okay, but what does that have to do with AI? Let's talk about an artist I knew in high school. They've asked to remain anonymous due to previous incidents where they were falsely accused of AI work and not wanting to relive those experiences. Their work uses surrealism to talk about their mental health experiences by making it look like their art is falling apart. This can, yeah, I mean, right, this is phenomenological, right? So, like, literally about the experience of the conscious mind, right? So it's not even psychology, it's like phenomenology. Their work uses surrealism to talk about, I don't like that word to talk about, but their work uses surrealism to talk about their mental health experiences by making it look like their art is, I just read that part, my fucking god. This can include breaking lines or patterns, causing bodies parts to bend unnaturally, or messing up background details like spelling on a sign. The goal was to make something that at first glance made sense, but the longer you stared at it, the more looked wrong. Remember how I listed some common tells for AI? All of those were strategies they'd use for intentional artistic purposes in their work. Yep. Who would have fucking guessed that there might be a point to this kind of stuff, right? Let's see. Because I've seen them use these tells since well before AI image generation became common, I feel confident their work is real. Set aside any trust I place in them due to knowing them personally. As an objective matter, I don't see a world in which they could have been using AI early on. However, as AI tells have become more recognizable, they've had to ditch much of their surrealist style. It was to do something more. It was to do something more realistic and therefore less likely to be AI. Or deal with endless false accusations. And my answer to that is just tell these quangos to go fuck themselves. Right? I've also seen people literally post their processes online, and then people still call the processes AI. Now, to be fair, there are some people who have made AI process videos, right? Where it's like, again, a fake video showing the process of to fake the fact that like they made it as a digital piece themselves. That is, again, a bit of a shitty thing to do. But there's nothing wrong with making AI art, being honest about making AI art, and there's nothing wrong with making this kind of surrealist art. Hello, Play Astronomical. Oh my god. Yeah, I started recording way too fucking late. I got bodied earlier in the day. We've been talking about the Monet thing for quite a while. We moved from the Monet to other similar situations that show that, again, all of these quote-unquote art experts don't know a damn thing about what they're talking about. So hopefully you have fun, because I've been having fun ragging on these fucking quangos. Anyway. So yeah, I don't think he should have changed his art style. I think he should have doubled down on his art style and called everyone who called him, who accused him of AI, maybe call him a bundle of sticks, right? Right? Drop a gamer word, right? If they're gonna hate you anyway, give them a reason to hate you by their own standards, right? Anyway, God bless that little mouse girl. Anyway, at the start of the article, I referred to AI creating an uncomfortable tension in artistic non-realism, but I wasn't referring to the usage of AI directly. The artistic community generally is one mind about that. It's not causing a lot of tension on its own. The tension is how artists then react, being forced to abandon their styles or accept false accusations. Okay, here's the thing. This is a decision you yourself have made. Your choice was, again, avoid false accusations and abandon artistic non-realism, which, by the way, let's remember, this was decided to be AI when this was drawn by a human being, right? This is not exactly the schizophrenic, like, ramblings that were being talked about earlier. And yeah, if this is going to get accused of being AI, then yeah, sure, your friend is going to get accused of being AI too. But just tell them to go fuck themselves. Right? Just tell them, like, look, you didn't make the piece. You don't have to look at the piece. Go fuck yourself, right? It's not that hard. Not everyone has to like your stuff, and you don't have to bend the knee to, like, again, like, this is pure vanity. This is unironic pure vanity, right? I care about how people perceive my work, beyond what it actually is. So it's like, no, this is pure vanity, right? Correct people's mistakes about what their perception of you is, and then move the fuck on. Oh my god. So, the concerns I've heard from this artist aren't isolated. A lot of artists are leaning either more heavily into realism or other hard-to-impersonate styles. AI still struggles with Western 3D animation, for instance, making that a safer area. Personally, the last time I wrote on this, I spoke about how many use of parametric modeling was labeled as AI. I've since had to pull some of these examples from my portfolio, and I don't use parametric design as often anymore, as these concerns have gone away. I have other architecture major friends who use experimental rendering styles and have more or less ditched those because they were labeled AI. Again, this sounds like a personal problem. This sounds like a personal problem from someone who doesn't have the fucking chutzpah to actually stand up and say, no, I've been doing this for this length of period. Fuck you, right? This isn't that hard, right? Oh my God. The reality is, mainstream artistic movements are not under serious threat from AI. I feel fairly good about saying that. Hopefully, I'm really hoping the AI actually gets way better over time. At least for now. AI has too many tails for it to be a meaningful threat to the foreseeable future. And the reality is that, as several professional artists have told me before, any skilled person who makes a living off their art will be able to draw multiple styles and mimic most styles effectively. This is true. So artists have an option in theory. Most artists, it's not the style that is causing the art community to have a bit of an issue. The issue is, again, there is a lot of acceptance for blatantly unethical practices in the art community that I've explained multiple times before. So when AI and artists who do these things say that AI is intrinsically unethical, they get ignored because we've literally seen the unethical practices of the mainstream art community. So we don't exactly buy the moral authority of the person making the claim, right? So anyway, I'm gonna read this and then I'm gonna read the chat again. Let's see. Oh wait, where was I? Okay. Most artists I spoke to while researching this didn't seem seriously concerned about that right now. The concern seems to have shifted to displacing people who work in non-realism styles because people, understandably, don't want to bank their careers on false accusations, but don't want to give up their method of communication ideas either. I want to see someone actually go to court with one of these false accusers and actually win in court under a potential tortious interference claim. That would be fucking absolutely amazing. But, yeah. What is this? Ooh, nice. Okay. Let me catch up with chat, right? Okay, I already read that raccoon one. Okay, so Captain Rudy says Cosmic is more cooked than a well-done steak. I have no idea what you mean by that, right? Dan H. Brown says, it doesn't matter when in history people are going to be accused of being witches. Somehow all this feels the same. Witch, racist AI user. Yeah, I would agree. Right? Play Astronomical says, it is emotional. The logic falls apart, but you must listen to them. Yeah, if you've ever dealt with, and I've had the displeasure of having to deal with this, if you've ever had dealt with a client or like an individual who has like escalated themselves up to a point of like a survival state, yeah, you can't reason with them, right? Because even if they don't think consciously they're in a life or death situation, their body is responding like they're in a life or death situation, right? So you can't reason with them until they get past that and they come down to a point where you can actually talk to them, right? So, and a lot of people are being very emotional, and part of the thing that's going on is exactly this. They are kind of in this state of like emotional, what would you call it? I just used the word excitation, right? They've been escalated to a point where they cannot calm down. This is again, an existential threat to some people. So again, they treat it as if it's an existential threat, or at least it's one in their mind. That's not a reasonable way to look at this stuff. A lot of these people could benefit if they just use this shit in part of their practice and stop being vain about it. And yes, it is vanity. It is sloth and vanity to not actually update yourself with the times because you think your way is the right way, right? But yeah, there's much to be said about that. Dan H. Brown says people love to make up a hated group because immediately begin accusing others to be part of that group without logic. Well, it's a social positioning thing, right? You get to position yourself as the good guy at the sacrifice of others, right? Let's see. Captain D says, we see that in a lot of communities, not just art, they refuse to gatekeep, they allow anyone in that wants in, and then those people do unethical shit that makes the community look bad, and then the community doubles down and defends the people making shit worse. Yeah. Captain Rudy says, if you ever heard someone say their brain is fried, cooks, or more or less means the same thing, fair enough. Dan H. Brown says, damn quangos. Yeah, fair enough, right? Damn those quangos. So, yeah. Again, you got people doing non-realism getting accused of using AI. Because, again, it's intentionally about breaking the rules, right? And, yeah, so apparently, again, people don't understand shit about art. Here's another example. Sanji fan art sparks AI debate in anime circles. Artist Divya shared a detailed commission on May 14, where it gained over 700 likes and 2 million views amid One Piece's world top 100 poll hype, with Sanji at number 2 globally. Critics flagged blurry shirt blends, shiny eyes, and awkward hands as AI tells, while mocking her quick output and commission claims. Divya defended it as hand drawing, noting conflicting AI tools. Let's see. One said 100% human. Plans time-lapse videos. The back and forth highlights shaky detectors and fandom tensions over real and generated art. So, yeah, this is actually a pretty fun post, by the way. I'm a real artist and I mog your AI slop. Which, given this right here, pick the pencil. Like, I might be the GOAT. Get a job instead of scamming. And then they post this. I think this might be a shit post, but I also don't know. Right? If this is a shit post, this is actually a great shit post. But if not, genuinely delusional, right? But yeah, so apparently, again, same website, 100% human, 98% AI generated. What the fuck are we doing here? Right? And it's not like I haven't seen artists make style, things like this. So, yeah. I don't think that this is proof that they used AI. But, who the fuck am I, right? Let's try. I keep hitting the right click on accident. Let's try another one. Professional artists spent hundreds of hours working on this book cover image only to be accused of using AI. The artist known as Ben Moran said that they were unjustly suspended from r/art for posting their art piece there. Oh, and by the way, r/art also apparently had mods power tripping and basically saying if you don't want your art deleted from r/art, then don't make pieces that look like they could be AI. That's like, you fucking idiots. All right. Anyway, but then again, it's Reddit. What would we expect? Reddit is a hive of scum and villainy, right? Let's go on. So, this is the piece, by the way. Lovely piece. But yeah, for 100 hours working on this book cover, and apparently, people accused him of using AI. Min An Win. Min An Win. It's not Nguyen, it's Win. Huang. Okay, I don't know if I pronounced that one right. 30 is the lead artist at the 3-year-old Cart Studio, which is based in Vietnam. Huang, who creates art using the name Ben Moran, learned to draw properly in 2019 after finishing a degree in economics. Once again, another example of someone getting a degree and then getting a job in something else, right? I know that pain. Drawing was just my hobby when I was a child, Moran said in conversation conducted via email because they felt less confident in their spoken English. I started getting serious about painting when I realized I could be good at it. The artists that mainly inspire me are Ruan Jia, Huang Guanjian, and Pietro. Oh, that's definitely a Polish name. Is it Jabłonski? Jabłonski? I think the L with a slash through it is a W sound. All contemporary fantasy illustrators. Moran is now at the center of a Reddit controversy thanks to a piece they were commissioned to produce for $500. for the. And by the way, yeah, if you need art, hire a foreign artist. By the way, they charge less. For the cover of one fantasy fiction author's Selkie Myths book. By the way, Indonesia has a good track record when it comes to artists, better than America or Japan. Myth plans to use it for his forthcoming 11th title, which he said is likely to be called Mandate of Heaven. If there was ever a Chinese-sounding novel name, this was it. I've ordered a lot of artwork with Moran because they are very, very good at what they do, said Myth, who is 31 and lives in Nebraska. They are an absolute steal for that quality of commercial use. In late July, Myth contacted Moran via email asking them to produce a work that would prove so contentious. The final piece, chosen from 4 options, was produced on September 7th and modified by Moran to Myth specifications. The cover design was done by mid-October. It takes me a month to fix and complete, said Moran. And here, again, actually gave a timeline and actually did it on time. Oh my god. In late December, Moran, an infrequent Reddit user, decided they wanted to do some self-promotion, so they posted the close-to-final design of the piece, titled A Muse in a Warzone, to r/art, a subject with 22 million members. They were quickly banned from the subreddit by the subreddit moderators on suspicion of using AI-generated art, which is against r/art's rules. Now, this rule is fine, right? It's fine to, like, again, determine what your rules are in your community, and if you want only human-made art in your community, that's fine. But I have a sneaking suspicion if I put a painting made by an elephant with a brush, they might accept that. Just pointing that out. Even though I think that this rule is dumb, they can again define their own rules. It's their own community. When Moran contacted the moderators to explain that they had not used AI, sending them a link to their portfolio, they were blown off. I don't believe you, a mod wrote in a message Moran posted on Twitter. They went on to say that even if Moran had painted it, it's so obviously an AI-prompted design that it doesn't matter. The moderator signed off the message with, "Sorry, it's the way of the world." Then they muted Moran, preventing them from making their case further. It is just the way of the world. I'm sorry, the way of the world is that people like you get replaced by AI. And I'm not exactly gonna, like, I'm not exactly gonna feel bad for you, right? Anyway, let's catch up with the chat a little bit. Let's see. Okay, so I already read that part. I read that part. Okay, here we go. Play Astronomical says, I has become an in-group test in ways, right? Or it, right? Yeah, it has become an in-group test in ways. Let's see. Captain Rudy says, Reddit, the same website that had to remove an entire Pragmata subreddit because people were submitting NSFW art of Diana. Yeah. Anyway. But let's not get into that can of worms, right? Anyway, Reddit again, hive of scum and villainy. So here we go. Direct tweet from the guy. We are in a world which real artists is being punished because he's the victim of these thief called AI artists. Yeah, this guy has no idea how AI art works. But anyway, let's look at the image. Or actually, I guess we're going directly to the tweet, right? And how funny is it that someone who, like, again, has been promoting AI art is now having to defend a person who hates AI art, right? Anyway, so let's read this. Complain about the permanent ban. So let's see what they actually read. They posted, I'm the artist of a painting, A Muse in Warzone. I'm here for complaining about the unfair ban. I can give you guys the process or the PSD file of that painting. I'm not using any AI supported and that punishment is not right. Sorry for my bad English and thank you for your time. Here's my portfolio. Take a look. And then the moderator said, I don't believe you. Even if you did paint it yourself, and paint is in quotation marks, it's so obviously an AI prompted design that it doesn't matter. If you really are a serious, quote unquote, artist, then you need to find a different style because A, no one is going to believe when you say it's not AI. So here we have style policing. And B, the AI can do better in seconds what might take you hours. fucking cunt move, right? Sorry, is the way of the world. And then immediately you have been temporarily muted from r/art, so you will not be able to message the moderators of r/art for 28 days. Just what a dichotomy of man, right? In me there are two wolves. One, no one is going to believe you when you say it's not AI, and two, the AI can do better in seconds what might take you hours. What a fucking what an outlandish situation, right? So, the moderators of r/art did not respond to the message from BuzzFeed News, and yes, sorry, I'm reading BuzzFeed right now, seeking comment on why Moran was banned and why they didn't give Moran the chance to prove their work was not AI generated. I can tell you why. Because they're a Reddit mod and they have a god complex. Myth, who runs his own mid-sized subreddit, focuses on Magic the Gathering, believes that the mod was being a jerk, but also operating in a difficult environment where AI-generated art is swamping public spaces and drowning out human-made work. I don't think the art is too good to be true. Wait, I don't think the art is too good to be true. Okay, so much as Moran draws in a popular style, said Myth. Moran's piece is one that AI could generate passively, but it didn't. And Moran has receipts, including layered Photoshop files, which AI couldn't create, and iterative designs. Which, by the way, as if anyone is doing AI art and they want to troll, figure out a way to do layered files, right? Figure out a way to do with layered files. Maybe that should be the next art project for an AI artist, right? Make a realistic AI-generated Photoshop file, right? Absolute trolls. Let's see. Moran said their interaction with the mods caused mixed emotions. On the one hand, they said, I was happy because honestly, the AI is so powerful. Those artworks are incredible. Like me, AI art is learning from the best, but better, faster. Being compared to with AI art means my work is kind of good. At least he can take it on the chin. By the way, on the one hand, they're thieves. On the other hand, they're learning from the best, but better and faster. Which one is it? Right? We have an inconsistent claim here, and you see this all the fucking time with these anti-AI people who can't seem to understand how the thing works. Play Astronomical says, putting paint in quotes, these Fedora tippers really have some narcissism on another level. Remember, they all think they are better than you. Oh yeah, no, I am aware. I've had to deal with Reddit before. I had instances on Reddit where I had a real technical question. I was like, look, here's the question I have. And then I made an error in the question, and then, there's no grace that a lot of these people have, right? Let's see. On the other hand, Moran also felt a sting. After all, they had spent more than 100 hours working on a piece with Myth. I want to show my my hard work to the community, they said, and it's being accused of being AI work is just like telling me that I am a random guy and all my job is just typing some words to have painting in 1 or 2 hours. There's a number of other subreddits, and again, it depends on who it is. Like, yeah, you can generate some stuff in just like a brief time, but sometimes, again, especially if you see some of the higher end content creators, sometimes these people can spend, hours and hours and hours and hours actually trying to make something, right? I think Skybro said one time he spent like 300 hours on one project. I was like, damn, holy shit, right? Anyway, maybe I'm misremembering that, but I do know, I think someone else in the community said that like they spent 30 hours on like a 3-minute video, and I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. So, let's see. So, yeah, so long story short, you know what? Fuck it, we're out of here. We might as well finish this. Actually, where are we? Where in this are we? Okay, yeah. A number of other subreddits have covered the controversy, and users rallied around Moran. The level of mod abuse is absolutely shocking, one Redditor wrote. It's not just that the artist was wrongly banned, it's that when they appealed, the mod doubled down, called them a liar, and insulted their artwork. Again, because they have the enlightenment, the secret knowledge, right? You can't use your empirical, lesser knowledge to challenge them. Let's see. For a short time, the mods of r/art made the subreddit private, claiming they were being brigaded. And brigaded is just people complaining that you're pointing out you're being stupid or attacked by other subreddits. Moran remains suspended from r/art for now, and the controversy continues to roil. There is a really simple solution, Myth said. Unbanning him says that what they did was wrong, and maybe even making a post saying, oops, we made a mistake, would fix things so fast and get people saying, okay, you know, they made a reasonable mistake. Why the mods aren't doing that is beyond Myth's comprehension. It's because they're prideful, right? It's because they're arrogant. Let's be perfectly honest. They don't want to admit that they were wrong, and cartoonishly wrong at that, right? Not least because it's making things worse. What's getting a lot of people riled up is the sheer stubbornness and ass-hattery. What a word, right? Going on here. I'm going to use this word more often, ass-hattery. As for what Moran wants to happen, it is by far their own admission, not much. I just want to have permission to post my art like all of the people in that subreddit, they said. I don't need any apology from them. I just want to protect my right to be a human artist, that's all. Now, they can't really take away your ability and right to be a human artist, right? He's really complaining about, again, the false accusation, which is a legitimate thing to complain about, right? Because that's a potential career-destroying move if you refuse to use AI and you want to do pure human-generated stuff, and then someone comes along and accuses you of using AI gen. Well, a large part of your customer base is invested in you because you do human work, and if you're being accused of using AI, that can absolutely alienate you from your customer base. So again, I think people should be able to probably take people to court for these kinds of claims if it actually results in reputational damage, right? It's just my opinion. Okay, so Captain Rudy says, I wonder if it was the same Reddit mod that went viral a few months ago for crashing out after getting his mod privileges taken away. Funniest possible shit could happen, right? I really hope that was the case, because if that's the case, that is just so fucking great. Let's see. Captain Rudy says, have you seen Shoe on Head's video about Pragmata? I have. I will probably do a commentary on that video at some point, but I'm probably going to do it through Actual Justice Warriors video, because he makes a comment about one of the things Shoe says in there, which I think is really important. Because Shoe makes one really asshat statement where it's like, all right, you have no idea what you're talking about in this subject, but everything else in this video is spot on. Let's see. It was 150 hours, and that he spent making his video gonna be 150 hours for a 5-minute 42-second video. Yeah, that's a real, again, 100. So half of the time I suggested is still 150 hours. That's still multiple days of work on one video that's 5 minutes and 42 seconds, right? And people want to say that these products have no effort or work put into them, right? It's just cope and seethe. Again, they know how dangerous this is to their position, because again, they refuse to treat their customers as, you know, respectful clients, right? Anyway, Captain Rudy says, even if that book cover was done with AI, do they know how long of a prompt you need to type out in order to get an image like that? People are out here typing out whole ass novels just to make enough prompts to make a short video. Yeah. Dan H. Brown says, needs to be more lawsuits against Reddit mods like H3H3 did. Oh, I hope H3H3 fucking takes a bunch of people down. I'm not a big fan of Ethan, but I'm totally supportive of him. I think he's totally in the right with this. Kura says, sadly, I think he was a LSF mod. Fuck. Right? Alright, we already covered this part. So yeah, we have, again, I'm not going to watch this video, but she talks about, again, an AI artist being accused of using AI. I'm not a big fan of Cat and Chat because, again, the stunt she pulled with Alicia X Death. And if you want to know about the Alicia X Death thing, you can go to Alicia X Death's channel because she has a video on it. But she doesn't like people talking about that directly. I'm not going to talk about that because, again, she doesn't like people talking about it. She doesn't want to be known for the thing that Kat ended up talking about. So, respect her, boundaries kind of deal. So, now we get into r/defending AI art. I know. I was just talking shit about Reddit, but r/AIArt actually does have some useful stuff in it, right? Including documentations of examples of like actual anti-AI terrorism, such as people shooting up, places specifically because they are hosting AI data centers, which the news has not exactly been reporting on. Let's see. Dan says, seems so to me. Slander isn't used enough here. Agreed. Not sure if Captain Rudy says, not sure if you follow Keen on Twitter, but he made a group photo last week of like 36 Skybros using only text prompts, no reference images. He said it was like 3,000 words in total. Oh my god. You'd only need to make 25 prompts like that to equal a novel. Good God, man. I have to... Keen should do a video showing his process, right? I think all of us should do a video showing at some point the actual process of making a finished piece that we actually like. Because again, you can see on like live streams, if I go to a Honey Goblin stream, and I still love Honey Goblin, even though she doesn't know damn thing about AI, and she has the objectively wrong stance on AI. It's always been my rule that everyone gets their own their one retardation, right? I would hope that someone would have enough grace for me that if I was retarded on one subject, that they would allow me the grace to be wrong on something, right? So that again, you know, nothing, it doesn't necessarily devolve into a purity spiral, right? But that being said, like she does the whole thing. She does process streams where she does the rigging work on stream. It's another thing with like Giratia. Love Giratia's work. She did some like stuff where she posted like, again, the little watermark that says no, do not train with AI. She can't really do anything about that. You know, I think these people don't really fully understand how these networks are trained and how this material is acquired, but I digress. But you know, she's a good artist. I actually have a number of Giratia's posters, and yeah, she does like, again, digital painting. And she streams the process. I've seen people stream, like, again, pencil drawing. I've seen people stream, like, actual painting. I've seen people stream all kinds of shit, 3D modeling. I've seen people, like, stream all kinds of artistic media. I think we should encourage some of our guys to actually start streaming some of the AI prompting mechanisms to show, like, exactly how it functions. But, you know... hold on, a couple more things in the chat just happened. Sakura says, the jazz song took me 2 weeks, 8 hours a weekday, 14 hours on the weekends and Mondays. Yeah, again, it's like that Denoise the Black Cathedral for me was not exactly a quick song to make. But also, I think the way I prompt for some of the other songs might also help to reduce some of the time. Let's see. Captain Rudy says, yeah, Skybro spent 150 hours on a video and he still has a day job. Talk about dedication. Yeah, again, for the love of the game, right? Play Astronomical says, in the Cord, often people like Keeney stream their video making. I should get a setup at some point and be able to do the same. I mean, I know that we like stream it in the Cord, but we should probably be releasing some of this material out into the public, right? Because it's opaque unless actually demonstrated, and it would probably be better if people could actually see the process themselves, just like, again, people could see the process of, again, a live stream for like digital painting, right? Or a live stream of a musician in a band, you know, like working through the process, because that would, again, help to clear up for anyone who's actually interested in learning about this stuff what is actually going on. Play Astronomical says, currently, I use my personal device, so I would risk accidental dox if I tried right now. That's entirely fair. Don't do that. Do not dox yourself, right? Oh my god. So let's go here. AIArt Panic. The anti-AI art community is killing art by Mikhail Love. So, the internet has turned into a battlefield where real artists face groundless accusations daily. Last year, judges wrongfully disqualified an Australian photography from a competition after falsely claiming her genuine work was AI generated. This story represents just one example of many similar cases. So, again, this is a photographer. Okay, this thing loads, right? This is a photographer. They don't actually even have the picture in here. The fuck? Okay. The drama surrounding AI art online has grown out of control. AI and anti-AI art groups now bully innocent creators off platform. A single post that wrongly accuses an artist got over 8 million views and 176,000 likes within days. These attacks don't just hurt individual artists, they damage our creative community's spirit. Artists can't even share their work anymore without someone pointing to tiny flaws as proof of AI use. Mistrust, the growing mistrust threatens both artistic expression and our community's unity. I don't give a damn about the community's unity. But, yeah, so we have this article here, this citation. Let's move over here.
This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the best all-in-one platform for all of your
Again, yeah, Duchess Celestia talks about, you know, this stuff.
Holy cow, guys. This is...
Artists bullied off Twitter. Oh, yeah, guess what we were just talking about, right? Okay, apparently they linked that same article twice. I don't know why they did that. Let's see. Here we'll examine why people are panicking, how AI art detection tools lead to false accusations, and they do, right? And why standing up to artistic bullying is vital. Support artistic freedom means we reject these baseless attacks on creators regardless of whether they use AI or traditional tools. And he's right? So, found the post if you want to see for yourself. Okay. Oh, yeah, hold on. Is this the thing about the... Let's go here. If the damn paste function, here we go. Yeah, so we're getting close to the thing I wanted to point out. 37 characters, 0 reference images, 3,312 words, single gen. I'll do a clean version. Just wanted to see if I could do this anyway. Damn. This looks like it was a fucking nightmare to make. I mean, obviously, right? 3,312 words. All of them had to have been consciously, like, chosen and with some understanding of how they interact with each other and how the AI interprets it, right? Good lord, man. This makes me want to get into genning. Okay, let's go back here. So the emotional cost of being falsely accused. We all fucking already know the emotional cost, right? Let's see. What's driving the panic? As we kind of already know what's driving the panic. Fear of job loss and automation, misunderstanding how the AI tools work, rise of anti-AI movements, false accusations hurt the entire art community. Yeah, it discourages innovation and style. Yeah, chilling effect, new young artists, because again, new burgeoning artists can be really discouraged really quickly. Cancel culture is not the answer. I mean, obviously so, right? Let's see if we can find... let's see. This is the one that I'm definitely going to get to, because this one is actually a pretty good post, too. So, yeah. So, this article says anything that, like, most of us who've, like, been in these AI art communities say is already aware of, right? So, we already talked about stories of artists being bullied off platforms. Let's see. Yeah, we just talked about this story right here. Let's see. Oh, there's another one here. Game studio had to defend their little droid cover art publicly after... Oh, I think that was the image we just saw, actually. Yeah, okay, so this is the little droid image that was... so this is actually for a video game. So apparently this was actually made for a video game at the stages of drawing art cover. Yeah, again, people still probably call this AI. Interesting. I actually just found out about this. This was not part of my collective things to use. So, how AI art drama fuels fear. Artists have changed their creative processes because of this anxiety. One creator had to give up most of their surrealist style. I just fucking talked about this. Let's see. There's an architecture example. Oh, wait, that's the same article. Okay. Creators now face tough... Okay, yeah. So this is just condensing a lot of this stuff I basically said, which is a little bit annoying because I kind of wanted there to be more here. Is that a Gengar twerking? Okay. Dan H. Brown says, yes, more bullying from the leftists. Bring more young artists to the dark side. Turn more of them into AI enthusiasts, right? I mean, what's that old adage? Never stop your enemy when he's in the middle of making a mistake, right? This is good tactics, right? Let's see. At this rate, we'll soon have real artists fake their art as AI art when they were real art. Lol. I mean, fair, right? That's a good troll. I kind of want to see more people do that. Troll the antis this way, because it shows how much of a dickhead and like how much of a dunce they are. Let's see. Yeah, I don't really think we're gonna get anything new out of this particular article. I mean, we're already doing the building supportive art communities thing in the SCU and Red Veil. Okay, let's go to the conclusion and see if there's anything like that they've concluded differently, because it seems like we've already talked about. Oh my god, right? Let's see. False AI accusations don't just hurt their direct targets, they threaten our entire creative world. Artists now abandon their unique styles and experimental approaches because they're afraid. This fear-driven narrowing of artistic expression might be the saddest result of all this vile and disgusting anti-AI assholery. Artists have always picked up new tools throughout history, from camera obscuras to Photoshop. Despite facing pushback at first, AI is just the newest technology in this development. All the same, today's climate of suspicion has moved away beyond healthy skepticism into a harmful zone that holds back new ideas and diversity. Each falsely accused artist is a real person with feelings. Yeah. Again, one, they know about this and they want to hurt your they want to hurt your feelings. They want to crush your dreams. They want to actually denigrate your years of practice. Let's not be bullshitting about this, right? They do this because they're evil, right? Or because they're scared and they want to hurt you. There's only really two options here. I mean, they could be also just incorrect. If they're ignorant of the subject matter, that's one thing. But a lot of these people are maliciously motivated. So their suffering is real. The creators need spaces where they can express themselves without worrying about baseless attacks. We can build better community despite these challenges. Let's stop making snap judgments and start asking questions. Take a closer look at evidence, approach unusual artwork with curiosity instead of doubt. I just popped my hip. Let's see. Just popped my elbow. Their great art often breaks the rules. They shouldn't automatically lead to AI accusations. Yeah, so the conclusion basically is the same as the one I have too. So let's go down to here, because this is one that caught my eye earlier, right? So I've been making art most of my life. Drawing, painting, digital work, it runs in my family. Long before AI was a thing, I spent years sharing my pieces online on online art forums, Discord groups, and other communities. What I learned the hard way is that those spaces weren't really built for creativity or growth. That is true, right? Leftist art communities are not actually built for that. They were built for conformity. Yes, for pushing the message, right? And I can count how many times I got comments like, we don't shade like that here, or worse. One person even accused me of being a pedo because I drew an anime-style girl. It didn't matter what my intent was or what emotion I was trying to capture. All that mattered was whether my art fit their narrow vision of what was acceptable. Over time, I realized something sad. Many self-described artists aren't protecting art, they're protecting their territory. He is absolutely right about this, right? This is absolutely correct. Everyone is dancing in the chat, and this is definitely an unexpected turn of events, right? But yes, no, they are absolutely right. They are protecting their territory. Not just their own position in the art community, but literally the Gramscian left is protecting their territory in the sense that they're protecting their control over the means of cultural production, right? We don't do that here. Why? Because it doesn't push the message that we culturally want to push. So that kind of gatekeeping and arrogance kills creativity far more effectively than any new technology ever could. And that's why Hollywood died, right? That's why Hollywood can't compete with Japan. Let's see. When I started using AI to make and release music, the difference was night and day. Suddenly, people cared about the work again, the atmosphere, the message, the feeling it gave them. Musicians I talked to didn't sneer when I mentioned AI. They were curious, even impressed. They asked questions, wanted to learn more. The community around AI tools feels the way art should have always been. Open, experimental, and collaborative. And he is absolutely right. This is one of the reasons why I love the fucking community that I'm in with all these AI artists, is because it is exactly the community I wanted to see with real human artists, to be perfectly honest. And now that I get to see real AI artists, because they're both real artists, see how I snuck that in there, I at least get that with the AI community, even if I don't get that with the human community. I'm just saying, right? The AI has unironically brought out the best in people using it and the worst in people who don't want to use it. Let's see. Where was it? Okay, yeah. AI didn't take the soul out of my art. It gave me back for the freedom to explore it without judgment or elitism. So when I see people claiming AI is killing art, I can't help but think back to all those forums and gatekeepers who made creating feel like walking on eggshells. Art has always evolved through tools from brushes to cameras to Photoshop, and every generation has people who panic about the next evolution. But the truth is, art doesn't die when the tools change. It dies when communities become hostile and closed. AI isn't the threat. Gatekeeping is. And I would agree. Yeah. Again, art is free speech. It is. Art is the concretization of a metaphysic. That's why it must be protected even in the forms we don't particularly like, right? Okay, so I did that one. So Kuro says, yep, Gengar twerking things out, and then the smug Alana rainbow dance, yeah. Fucking Gengar shaking what his mama gave him, Captain Rudy, and then more smug Alana dancing by Kura, Captain Rudy. Cosmic out here popping like a bowl of Rice Krispies, right? Every joint in the body cracks. It's like, oh no, I've become old. Captain Rudy says, you're showing your age there, bud, right? Dan Brown says, at risk of sounding cheesy, I want to thank all the SEU artists out there for all their hard work, bringing wonder, joy, and beauty. Please don't let these touch bags sway your creative endeavors. Oh, absolutely not, right? Like, oh my God. The fun, the passion came back after years of it being gone, largely because of the AI community. Oh my God. See, Dan Brown says, I mean this unironically, thank you. And then he corrects touchbags to douchebags. I mean, considering some of the stuff that, like, the people that they listen to, like Hassan Piker says, I mean, it's not exactly a stretch to use the other phrase, right? But anyway. We may never know what happened in Germany in that day, but, with Hassan Piker, but, it's not my place to speculate. So, I mean, I think this is also a fair thing. There's a stark difference between art communities and online art communities. Yeah. I think this is actually a fair point, right? But having actually been in online art communities, also they gatekeep the hell out of the right. So, or at least they do when I last was involved in any of them. So yeah, this largely sums up a lot of what I was just talking about. But I have another example, a new example of retards online, or specifically one retard online. I saw this and I was like, I have to add this, right? Not being able to tell AI from human generation. Here we have Y saying, I hate that this is clearly and instead of an AI upscaled image, and I cannot for the life of me find the higher resolution original. It's not on any of Yo's secret Pixiv or DeviantArt accounts either that I know of. And this is the example picked from old internet, by the way, right? Now, I immediately recognized this piece because I've fucking loved this piece to death since it first came out, right? Partly because I also have a soft spot for Powerpuff Girls Z, and I'm telling you, in the power scaling community, are like these girls are being slept on, right? They're way more powerful than some people give them credit for. Also, bad English dub notwithstanding, the Japanese is actually just a fun series, right? Like, I actually just unironically quite like Demashita Powerpuff Girls Z, but yeah, they claimed this was a fake, but on Danbudu, right? Just pointing this out here. Let's go to Danbudu. What do I see here? From what is it? Pak Ji, and then like Pak Ji Young, I think that's how you say it. Over 17 years ago. Now, correct me if I am wrong. Correct me if I am wrong. I don't remember the AI being able to produce anything of this quality. And by the way, yeah, the original version is actually significantly larger. But I don't remember the AI being able to produce anything like this 17 years ago. Just, is it that hard to put an image in a Google reverse image search? Right? Oh my god. But, yeah. So, I love this piece to death, to be perfectly honest. But, man, I've loved it to death for literally years, but, yeah, apparently, this broke some people's brains and made them think it was AI. But, you know, if you wanted to know, this is some of the other work you can find on Danbudu of the artist who actually made this piece. So, it's all good art. And just the whole thing about anatomy errors, right? I just got to point out, Berserk, chapter 100, this woman has, again, 6 fingers. And you find this a lot in, like, shoujo manga, too, especially, like shoujo manga that's produced on a crunch, right? You'll have, like, especially errors in, like, the number of fingers on a hand happen more often than you think it would. So then sometimes manga has to be retracted so it can be updated and fixed. But, yeah. What do we have here? Here we go. Kura says, just wait till Monday, brother. My response to this whole thing will be dropped, lol. Fair enough. Fushizi says, imagine being told what you can and can't do. Truly. Like, we were supposed to live in the land of the free, right? Just saying. So Play Astronomical says at Dan, not to speak for everyone, but we appreciate it. It's harder without the support of many like you, and I would agree. Support your local SEU like creator. They do, and they actually appreciate it. Play Astronomical says, speaking of good trolls, grabbing old arts like this and accusing it of being AI, then watching all the people who say they can tell lose their mind. Yeah, actually, that would probably make a good troll. We didn't even have neural nets back then. Exactly, right? Fushizi? Oh my god. Play Astronomical says, Fushizi in chat. Fuck! Yeah, just I wanted to talk about this. I know Isom, for example, by the Rippaverse, was accused of using it. They didn't, by the way, but they were accused of using AIArt in one of their Isom comics, which they don't. Like, Rippaverse is very clear; they do not use AI, and I have no reason to believe that they don't. But you know, sometimes there are just errors in art, and you know, again, they were accused of using AI in their art at one point because of just errors that happened in their, you know, in some of the art of the panels, right? It's nothing particularly egregious, but you know, it happened, and people will do that. If they don't like you, they will use any imperfection in what you produce to claim you're an AI art, you know, an AI artist. And if it turns out that they don't like you, they will use your perfection to claim you're inauthentic. So either way, they will accuse you of being inauthentic by either highlighting your deficiencies as a creative or highlighting your perfections as a creative. So it's a tool that they can use to attack both sides. But yeah, I think that this Luddite bullshittery is absolutely gonna not sustain itself. I think it's gonna crash and burn, and I don't particularly care that it's gonna crash and burn. I want it to crash and burn. So yeah, I was supposed to be on significantly earlier than this, and yeah, no, it's just things happen, right? So that'll be it for this episode. So if you're watching on YouTube, y'all say thank you for dropping by, and I will see you next time.